All right, welcome everybody to the 20th anniversary of Fellowship of the Ring. I am super pumped for this. We are all going to watch the film together. If you haven't already, look in the description how this works. And what you want to do is have your copy of Fellowship of the Ring synced up, and we're all going to start it at the same time. Legally, for copyright reasons, if I want to keep my channel, I cannot broadcast a copyrighted film, believe it or not. So you have to get your copy queued up. So while Yoystan and I are kicking us off here and chatting, you can be getting out your discs, your DVD, your Blu-ray, whatever you got. You could be pulling up your digital copy on whatever streaming you've got. And then we will all start at the same time. And we'll just kind of have a running fan commentary going on here. We've got a bunch of people in the chat here. This is going to be awesome. First thing I'll do is introduce my guest, Mr. Men of the West himself, Yoystan. Thanks so much for joining, man.
Yeah, Mr. Nerd of the Rings. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. I can't wait for this. This is going to be so much fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, this this was kind of a fairly last minute idea that I've been thinking about over the last few weeks, and I thought, what more fun way to do this than have some of my friends on that I've met in the last couple of years through this channel. So we've got Men of the West is with us right now. Cliff Broadway from theonering.net is going to be joining us shortly. We've got the guys from the Prancing Pony podcast coming on later tonight. And who else we have? We have Tea with Tolkien. And I'm probably forgetting one or two more. Voice of the Rings, he's also going to be on here later tonight. So without further ado, I think, we've got a long way to go here. We've got to make it to Amon Hen before this night is over. So I will have this timer going. If you can see the We Are Here window. And then I'll have a second timer I'll bring in for disc 2. So for those of you operating on 2 discs, I've got you covered. We've got, we're just kind of giving a few minutes here. So Yoystan, before we get started, do you remember your first time watching Fellowship of the Ring?
Oh, that's a great question. So when it came out, I was 2 years old. And so I don't remember the experience of it in theater or anything like that. My dad and I, we did go and see it when it did like a re-release in our local theater, like 10 years later. But I want to say one of my first memories of Lord of the Rings was my dad actually watching Return of the King. And I'm like, oh, this looks amazing. And after that, I imagine we just sat down and watched them all together when I was about 5, maybe.
Yeah. So ironically, Fellowship of the Ring is actually the only film I've never seen in theaters.
Oh, really?
And I would love to someday.
Oh, really?
And
hey,
Mr. Cliff
Hello, everybody.
Broadway joining us.
Hi. Hey, guys, what's going on? I'm just overhearing something that I cannot really believe that I heard just now. You did not, even though there was a big re-release of Fellowship of the Ring later on in 2001, or maybe 2002, there was a re-release of Fellowship. You didn't go and see it.
I didn't really. Yeah. No, I didn't.
See, I have an excuse. I was 3, so I don't know if I did.
Oh my gosh, man. Wow. Now I feel
wild.
Super old.
Hello, Yoystan. Hello, Matt. Hello, Yoystan, and hello to the whole universe of Tolkien fans. I've been out in the backyard chasing a little cat named Mithrandir, so I'm finally back in the house. So here I am. Okay.
Nice. Well, yeah. So yeah, Cliff. So I first saw Fellowship of the Ring after it was on DVD. So that was my first exposure to Tolkien. So, and the last time, during COVID and everything, they were putting old movies back out in theaters. And even then we were out of town for our adoption for like 6 weeks. And so I missed the window for that too. So every chance I've had to see Fellowship of the Ring in theaters has not played out for me. So yeah, it's just one of those things. One day, maybe. We'll see.
Well, there are revivals. Obviously, there are
Yeah.
there are revival screenings. Over here in Los Angeles, we had the American Cinematheque, and before COVID, they were quite famous for doing an annual extended edition marathon that was an all-day affair, and it would
Wow.
inevitably bring out guest stars and people
Yeah.
from New Line Cinema, and they would all come and talk to the audience, at the intermission between the three films and share their memories. It was such a great experience.
Yeah.
So I look forward to you getting a chance to go to one of those type of things. That'd be great.
If nothing else, I plan on building a nice big screen projector in my future man cave
yeah.
someday. So I'll just do it myself if I have to.
All
right.
That's awesome.
Well, without further ado, guys, let's we're all gonna press play. I'll give us a little countdown here, and then we'll all press play.
Perfect.
I just turned on my subtitles because I have
Great.
this on silent in the background.
That's
And
good.
right now I just pressed play, but strangely enough, I have this big, bright blue PG-13 motion picture certification. So I'm going to let that go by first, and then we'll hit pause right at 00000. Okay.
Perfect. Yes, I very much appreciate you turning the volume down so I don't get smacked with a copyright strike. That would be not the ideal way to go out. Or go out in a blaze of glory, not for
we'll all fight it. We'll all fight it together.
All right. We'll count it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. We are rolling, my friends.
I see blue pieces of film strip floating in the blackness. Oh, that's the New Line logo.
That it is.
I know what that is. For a second there, I thought I was going to watch Ninja Turtles, but I guess it's something else.
Oh, yes. That was what I knew New Line for prior to Fellowship of the Ring, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we've almost got 1,000 people in here. That is amazing.
Welcome to you all. We are beginning with this unique dialogue that belongs to Treebeard in the book.
That's right.
Sir.
Yes, it
sir.
does.
Yes. So I'm going to go grab my copy and pull it out and find the chapter where Treebeard is saying these things.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. Go ahead, Matt. You run the show. I'll be right back in a second.
I'm going to mute myself to eat some roast chicken, but I'll be listening. I'll say something in just a second.
Excellent. I do love how it's kind of a bold move, how much black this starts out with, just the voiceover from Galadriel. It definitely hooks you. It's unique. And yes, Gray Fox asked if I saw the Stephen Colbert's Fellowship rap. I did indeed. Yeah, I've also been listening to the Andy Serkis audiobooks recently.
Oh, they're so wonderful.
Yeah, they are.
I love his just inflections and just like you can tell how much acting he puts into every ounce
every
of it.
character.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Are we still as impressed as ever that Fran and Peter and Philippa managed to get this much exposition about the end of the Second Age?
Yeah.
What we're looking at right here, guys, could be the very last shots of season 5 of the Amazon TV series. It's the end of the Second Age right here in this battle.
And to make it so interesting as well, so well written, is to just begin this amazing trilogy. It's incredible. It doesn't feel like an exposition dump.
Yeah.
No, it just feels like the most badass battle between elves and orcs that you could ever imagine. And there's Gil-galad. There was Gil-galad for 1 second.
Elendil.
There he was. Remind me, what's the name of his spear? I almost remember.
Aiglos.
Aiglos. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's why I love you guys. You know what's going on.
Oh, and the armor and everything. Oh man.
All the little runes and inscriptions.
Yeah.
I don't know about everybody else. I'm watching the 4K version on my
Yeah.
desktop right now.
Mhm.
It's just, I notice new things all the time.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I can see pieces of armor and glint and engravings in the armor I've never seen before. It catches my eye all the time.
See, it almost worked out in my favor that I saw the movies before reading the books, because I'm the type of person that'd be like, wait, it didn't happen like that in the books. Sauron was thrown down and then Isildur cut the ring. Matthew Hughes, watching the film and just loving all the energy today. To another 20 years. Indeed.
I'll say. This very fact of the ring shrinking in size in this moment, actually it's the extended edition, so we're going to see this now. That's caused a lot of conversation and a lot of speculation among fans over decades, because Tolkien never said the ring was going to change size, but maybe he suggested that it might, but it was made quite physically real when Peter Jackson decided to show that.
I mean, with Sauron being 9.5 feet tall, like there has to be some sort of explanation there, right? And I think it just shows the brilliance that the writers and Peter Jackson had.
A tip of the hat to Ralph Bakshi, who did very, very similar opening 6-7 minute prologue in his film, including, the death of Isildur and all these other little bits. However, it was just strange and bright red with silhouettes and all live actors in those scenes.
Right. The rotoscoping.
And the rotoscoping actually came in a little bit later. The entire Bakshi, the whole Bakshi prologue is photography, just straight photography.
I couldn't remember.
That's all it is. But they're all silhouettes. This is much, much more impactful. This is a very impactful prologue, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, this whole prologue sequence, it's incredible to me, the amount of heavy lifting this does. And man, you can really see that ring, by the way, in the 4K. I'm watching the 4K and I've never, it's just crazy to me every time. I'm like, dang, there it is. I can see very clearly the ring in this 4K version.
Mm-hmm.
We've got someone's cats are reacting to Mithrandir meowing.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry, everybody. I didn't know you people could hear Myth meowing in the background. I'm embarrassed.
Guest star. It's all right.
That's a guest star. Yeah.
Guest starring Mithrandir. He's probably looking for future orders from Queen Baruthiel. He's looking for his next set of instructions from her, because I know he's spying on me. That's too funny. Hold on, kids. I'll be right back, and I'm going to grab another book off the shelf.
He'll have the entire history of Middle-earth saga by the time.
Right? Yeah, I know.
That's awesome.
I didn't know we were supposed to bring study materials to this.
Yeah. There's a test.
It's funny. I've seen the people have asked me if they should redo that little bit with Bilbo and add Martin Freeman into it or something. And I have the same reaction every time. I'm like, no. I'm like, we're not George Lucasing this stuff, guys.
Oh no.
Come on.
With the CGI implanting. No, don't touch it.
No.
No, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. Sir Ian Holm did such a great job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually just listening the other day to the BBC dramatization with Ian Holm as Frodo, and it's so good.
Oh yeah.
I love those things. And like, because I saw Ian Holm in this first, he comes off as a much older Frodo, more in line with the books.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Dramatization. So it definitely adds a different feel to it, you know, as opposed to Frodo being so young in these films.
We're looking at Bilbo go, yes. And we've actually stumbled upon the main conceit of Peter Jackson's 6-film set. And it is Bilbo writing material in the Red Book of Westmarch. And he returns to that in the Hobbit trilogy as, you know, front end and late back end bookends. And here in Fellowship, it is consistent that playful conceit that Professor Tolkien was playing around with too.
Yeah.
That this is an actual historical record.
Yeah, absolutely. The frame narrative is very, very impressive, and it does things like explains away why we don't know Dwarvish, for instance. We don't know the entire Khazad language because our hobbits didn't know. So through their eyes, it makes sense that we wouldn't either. I love those kinds of explanations.
Exactly.
I love how he also, you know, used Bilbo's storytelling as a way to explain away the first edition of The Hobbit, where Gollum gives up the ring so willingly and is just like, oh yeah, you want it, here you go.
You can have it,
It's all good. He's like,
so Bilbo got put on the spot and had to tell the real story later on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that.
That guy missing the
he goes
the
back
spike.
misses again. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Do you know what? I was looking in The Two Towers, but it's Treebeard's dialogue in The Return of the King. That's why I was looking in the wrong place.
Yes.
That's right.
It's
okay.
Like toward the very end, right?
It is. It's in the chapter Many Partings on page 259. I just found it. For the world is changing. This is Treebeard speaking with great reverence to Celeborn and Galadriel.
Yeah.
And he says, "It is long, long since we met by stock or by stone. I, Vanamar, Vanamelion Nostari," he said. "It is sad that we should meet only thus at the ending. For the world is changing. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. And I smell it in the air. I do not think we shall meet again." Wow.
That's so beautiful.
I love it.
I've got chills. I've got Treebeard chills from this beautiful way that he speaks to the elves. It's just wonderful. It's really wonderful. Now, forgive me. We should be looking at this most iconic cinematography of Gandalf arriving in the Shire in his cart.
Absolutely.
The forced perspective, it holds up so
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It also explains why these films were never converted into stereo 3D. They were not converted because it would have messed up the forced perspective effect.
That makes total sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
That was one of the with the new box set that came out. They had the can reel, and it leads off with Ian McKellen and Peter Jackson sitting in the cart, and Peter Jackson is in Frodo's spot and everything, so it makes him look small. That was definitely the highlight of that recent release for me, was that can film reel. It's funny, the going back to when Bilbo here says, "Where is that boy?" and yells for him, and then that's our transition to Frodo reading. It's like, if we're going by what was in The Hobbit, then he walked away to wait for Gandalf. So
he forgot very quickly.
Yeah, they forgot about that little. I guess the butter scraped over too much bread thing can affect your memory, I guess.
Although it's interesting on that same note, that Bilbo, he writes this concerning Hobbit piece, and then he also begins writing The Hobbit at like the same scene in the Hobbit movie. It's interesting that he writes both, because I would say like right before or after this moment here, he's writing about the dwarves and Erebor.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's really a fascinating moment.
It's like he had a a streak of very, very productive writing. That's what happened. He just got on a tear.
Yeah, absolutely. No writer's block at all.
There are some very small but maybe noticeable changes to some of the makeup that they were applying to Sir Ian McKellen. In these early scenes, you might notice differences in his eyebrows, which they were adjusting. Some of his eyebrows are, a little bit crazy bushy. Professor Tolkien described his eyebrows as coming out from under the brim of his hat.
Yeah.
But as we move from these shots where he's out in the fields with Frodo, versus some of the other shots where he's by the fireplace explaining the history of the ring and Isildur to Frodo, you might notice some differences in Ian McKellen's makeup because they were trying to fix a few things here and there. Ian McKellen was greatly delayed because he was working as Magneto for the X-Men film, and he actually arrived in New Zealand a month or 2 months later after a lot of other filming had already gone underway. So they had a late start getting his makeup tests done. If I'm not incorrect, I think I'm remembering this correctly.
So I can't tell you how many people have told me, we just saw the Hobbits, the disapproving Hobbits there. Odo Proudfoot, who we find out that is.
I love him.
There's so many people that thought that was a woman and like her daughter or something instead of husband and wife. I was always surprised by that. I was like, no, that's Odo Proudfoot.
Oh my gosh, really?
I didn't know who that was. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's Odo Proudfoot. He's the same person who later yells "proud feet" at the party.
Oh, of course. Yes, of course. Yeah. That's awesome.
Oh, what's everyone's favorite film is a question we got from the chat. I'm guessing of the Middle Earth films, it's probably, no matter how you slice it, my answer is going to be the same. So it's going to be one of these films.
It's definitely the Two Towers Extended Edition is my favorite of the six. Yes.
I think for me, the Return of the King Extended, like the speeches, the virtue that's portrayed, it was always the biggest inspiration to me growing up.
Wow. See, you guys are so good narrowing it down to a specific one. I often will take the easy way out and say, like, The Lord of the Rings is one film and it is my favorite.
I always say that, but I didn't think I could get away with it tonight.
So for a long time I thought, like, oh yeah, Fellowship. I feel like Fellowship is the most popular answer, but then I realized if I select Fellowship, I don't get Theoden or Eowyn or any of that Rohan music, and I can't have that. So
yeah,
I think if I were choosing theatrical editions, I would probably go with Two Towers. If I was going extended, I would probably pick Return of the King.
Good man.
Because I love a good third film in a trilogy, like where it sticks the landing. I feel like it's very hard to do for trilogies to stick the landing, and Lord of the Rings absolutely does.
Oh, 100% agree. And Viggo Mortensen's performance as Aragorn, especially, always the most inspirational to me. Just it still is.
Yeah.
Just the very fact that Elisar is singing at his coronation just breaks my heart. Breaks my heart to pieces.
Yeah.
It's as good as the dwarves singing in An Unexpected Journey. It just it opens up your heart to what's going on in a big way. It's wonderful.
Yeah, the Quenya of it all is just beautiful.
And speaking of which, that song that Aragorn is singing, obviously we would get to this, in 2 years when we do this for the 20th anniversary of Return of the King.
Yeah, let's do it.
But that song is the words of Elendil when he comes to Middle Earth. So I, for one, would love it Oh my gosh, could you imagine if we ended a season of Lord of the Rings on Prime with Elendil singing that song coming out of the water?
I'm going to die. If that happens, I'm going to die.
Matt, they have you on the writing staff, right? If not, we need to get.
Oh my gosh!
I am
You know what?
not on the writing staff. I'm not.
That would be so genius, though. It's terribly genius. It's a very, very genius suggestion. That's one of the best ideas I've heard in a long time. It's really good.
Like it would, just sing exactly like Vigo does.
Yeah.
Just
be
a callback to these films, obviously. But man,
do you notice this part where Bilbo is looking out the window and wistfully says, "Little rivers," and he's talking about his desire to see mountains again, Gandalf.
Yeah.
Right here in this bit. Well, you might not know this, but maybe you do. The word Little Rivers was the secret name, the code name of the Lord of the Rings project when it was being made.
Interesting.
All the people inside the production referred to it as Little Rivers production, and the copy of the script was printed with, a different fake title over it. So it actually, they had a fake title on the script called Jamboree. So if somebody walked into New Line offices and saw a copy of a script on the table, they wouldn't know it was Lord of the Rings. It would just say Jamboree across the front page. So they were using these little coded nicknames to refer to the secrecy of the project at the time.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's amazing.
Little Rivers. Hey, where do we see that tree? That beautiful tree in Gandalf's fireworks will be seen again in this film on the West Gate of Moria.
Oh, that's the same one, huh?
Yes, the small little design choice, but that green fireworks tree that Gandalf just does in this party scene is almost exactly the same as the tree on the West Gate. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's what it looks like to me. I thought that was a design choice.
See, I always thought I just assumed that it was like the party tree.
Yeah, or I mean, on the West Gate of Moria, I always thought that referred to Laurelin, the golden, with the other tree being Telperion.
Well, I could be wrong, but I've got a funny feeling that they were thinking that the fireworks would just be seen so briefly that they could sneak in that little Easter egg of having it look like a very J.R.R. Tolkien designed tree, because it was his design in the book that is so famous.
See, I love this scene where he's telling the story of the Hobbit to the little kids, and I would have flipped my lid if they would have used that as the storytelling device for the Hobbit films.
And that would have been the best.
Right? Yeah.
Of course. That's a great idea.
I would have loved it. I think with the Hobbit films, I would have loved it if it was a little bit of that unreliable narrator thing. And once in a while you'd jump back, a kid would call him out on something hey, last time you said,
Gollum definitely gave me the ring. It's
right.
No, you didn't. Yeah.
Someone said to keep an eye out for the cake catching on fire. That is a good one.
Oh yeah.
It does? Where? Oh, I've heard about this. It's legendary, but I've never seen the catching fire of the cake. I have to look for that though.
It's made out of something really flammable, right? Is that? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember what. Cyber Hobbit here has. This is one of my favorite points that I like to make when people bring up Lord of the Rings. Not only did it win 11 Oscars, it did so without bad language, nudity, or gore.
Yeah.
That was just Return of the King's Oscars, by the way. There's more for Fellowship and Two Towers. What is it, Cliff? Is it 19 total? Is that right?
19 total rings?
Oscars.
Oh, okay.
For the trilogy.
Sorry. I was. You have to forgive me. Justin was sending me a message, and I was like, "What's he talking about?" Sorry. Oscars. I know that it's 11 out of 11 for Return of the King, but I'd have to do an itemized count for the other films. It was just wild to me that the Two Towers didn't get the same nominations that Fellowship did,
Right.
that Return of the King did, but the Academy was saving all of their juice for the final film to give them the awards for a representation of all three films.
Oh, I see.
Yes. So that's why the Two
17.
Towers... 17, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, math is hard for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Michael
I
says
love
he
it when
feels at home here with Lord of the Rings super nerds like himself. Yes, you're in the right place.
Oh, of course.
Welcome aboard. That is a lot of dirty dishes. And
Oh my gosh, right?
I always felt bad for Merry and Pippin getting stuck with that, because I've been stuck in the back of the kitchen at a big catering event before. I know how bad it is. I know.
Especially for hobbits, I couldn't imagine. I imagine they're not neat eaters.
No.
Man, Yoystan, someone in the chat wants to know why there's no camera for Men of the West.
Oh, I was waiting for it. We made it 24 minutes.
There it is. Proud feet.
Proud feet.
Proud feet. Well, Yoystan, isn't that because you, of all people, value anonymity these days?
That's right. I do. I
Thank
really
you.
do. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what it's all about. Then it's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
It's as simple as that.
It's not about me. It's about our enjoyment of Middle Earth. So.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm still looking at that cake in the background, and it was burning brightly, but it didn't catch fire yet. I didn't see that. Oh, do you know what? This is one of the best parts in Howard Shore's score to me, because he's just introducing the trepidation of what Bilbo's about to do. He's introducing so many things with this change in music, and it's so captivating.
Oh, the 4K is amazing. You can see the sweat on his forehead.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before. Oh my gosh. I've never seen that before.
That's crazy.
I love the violins, the staccato strings, the way that these invisible feet are going up the steps. I love it so much.
Yeah, I didn't notice the burning cake either. I know it happened though. I've seen enough posts on it.
What I do notice is that there are smoke marks on the walls where the candles are lit in the background.
Oh.
I've never seen this before, but on most of these candles that are up against the curvature of the ceiling, there's like noticeable
the right side of the frame right now.
Yeah.
Oh, and there was quite a few of them that I just saw before the camera moved. It's pretty cool. Like, I'm seeing things over and over again, and it is an endless delight to come back to this film and come back to it again. I love it. We all know the story that the portraits above the fireplace are actually Fran and Peter.
And Peter, yeah.
Representing Bilbo's parents.
Yeah.
Every small detail, it's just, I don't know how they
so
did
good.
it.
Oh my gosh. It's so, like, I had to hold back, like, the temptation to, like, finish lines and stuff.
Same.
I was all ready to be, what if I'm making it your fault? I do remember this being, like, when I first watched this film, I was like, oh, crap, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Gandalf just got serious, man.
Clifford, I think
Cliff,
you're
I think
muted.
you're muted.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was
Yeah,
my
yeah,
bad. I'm muted.
You're okay.
I muted myself because of outside ambient noise. But the fact that it's been talked about by scholars of the books as much as it has been discussed by us pop culture observers and a lot of movie fans, they notice that of all the people who are given the ring or have ownership of it, it is only Bilbo who is capable of voluntarily giving it up himself. Nobody else.
It's true.
So I guess
always,
Sam technically, Frodo kind of pulls it out of his hands, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You could say that. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. But I mean, it was to speak towards the spiritual strength of Bilbo Baggins in that effort that he willingly leaves it behind for his nephew. But of course, there's little exigencies here and there throughout the text, but that is a big moment for Bilbo. It really is.
It is,
and it's huge in the book too. You know, it's kind of the point that when Frodo and Gandalf are talking about it, you know, Gandalf basically says the fact that Bilbo gave it up rather than have it taken from him makes all the difference.
So it makes me wonder, because I always wonder about this. Gandalf, especially in the book, he knew that Frodo couldn't throw the ring into the fireplace. How did he expect Frodo to throw it into Mount Doom? Maybe he expected the same sort of thing to happen where, okay, if Bilbo could give it up of his free will, you can too. But I always wonder about that. He wasn't able to do it in Bag End. So what made Gandalf think he could do it at Mount Doom?
That's a good question.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you. I always wonder about that.
You know, I wonder if Gandalf had the same kind of foresight that Elrond was known to have. In the quest for Erebor, which we find in Unfinished Tales, I think Gandalf is much more interested in disclosing his foresight in that type of chapter. And the way that I think Professor Tolkien is therefore more interested in explaining Gandalf having that ability of foresight. But in cinema, in terms of movies, a lot of this foresight is given to the elves.
Yeah.
In these movies.
I love the little moment where, you know, Gandalf's muttering to himself and he says riddles in the dark. I just imagine all the book fans be like, oh, that's, you know, the one meme where they,
every time a chapter title sneaks in, I just love it. I love it so much. Yeah. You know, a shortcut to what?
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Yes, of course. Yes.
Crash Knot says, video idea, what if Bilbo took the ring with him to Rivendell? Well, it certainly would have been a easier adventure, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially in the books when it's 17 years earlier.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Nazgul, they were still back in Minas Morgul, so he would have been fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. But I wonder if that would have brought a much greater difficulty and strategic threat to Imladris.
Very true. That's a great point.
I mean, it doesn't escape my notice that the Lord of Rivendell, Elrond, is very, very interested in not having that ring stay at all.
Yeah.
At all.
I mean, gosh, they stay, you think about it, they stay for, how long do they stay in Rivendell? It's only like 2 weeks, isn't it? Is that right?
I thought it was, are we talking book or film? I think it was 2 months. 2 months.
Oh, it was 2 months. Okay.
Yeah, it's a couple of months.
Because they leave on December 25th, and then our classic, it's the morning of October 24th, you know?
Right, right. I love the Nazgul theme.
Oh, yeah.
I will, much to my, I'm sure it annoys my family to no end. They're kind enough not to say anything, but I'll walk around the house, you know, muttering the Nazgul theme.
That's funny. Well, in this section of the film, we get very quick shots of Minas Morgul, followed by quick shots of early Minas Tirith, which might not have been completely designed yet, maybe, or maybe they were just trying to keep some of it secret for later.
Right.
And we see some of the coolest underground libraries that Gondor has to offer. I just want to live here. I want to live here. Oh, and here's the part where we flash back to the ring changing its size. Yes.
So,
and we also get the, Gandalf says 34-34.
I was about to say that. Yeah, I was like, wait a
34-41.
Yes, sir. But they must have, like, the siege of Barad-dûr started in 34-34.
Right.
Which means the siege must have been like
so
a couple days.
They basically, instead of a siege, it was more just like, hey, let's meet up and duke it out.
Yeah. I wonder why the change.
See, of Gondor knows what's up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've never felt worse for the horses. The horses having the terrible nails shoved through their hooves. I feel bad for the Nazgul horses. I kind of do.
Oh yeah. I mean, they were from Rohan originally, right? At least that's where their ancestors were, if they were bred. Yeah. So the Rohirrim definitely would be upset.
I'm really curious about now. I'm jumping to way in the future here, but how the mouth of Sauron's horses, they say if horse it was, and describe it as like, fire glowing in its eyes and nose and everything. I'm like, man, I wish they would have gone all out on that design, for the film. Yeah.
And there's Sam's father, the Gaffer.
Yes, Gaffer Gimli.
His only appearance.
Well, here's a good question. Why is it just now after Bilbo leaves the ring and leaves, is it Smeagol gets caught to tell them about the Shire? Any book reasons? So in the books, Gollum is caught much earlier, and it's a much more, the thing that kind of gets lost in films, I think, is, keeping in mind this is a, Middle Ages type situation. The stuff doesn't happen quickly in these situations. So it's like you find out a bit of information, then you spend like a couple years preparing, and then you go, and it takes you forever to go anywhere. So it's more so we're just being seen and given that information. So it kind of cinematically, it makes more sense to line it up like that.
It says,
oh, go ahead.
I was just saying Appendix B tells us that it was year 2944 when Gollum leaves the mountains and begins his search for the thief of the ring. But then years later, 2951, 7 years later, it says Gollum turns towards Mordor.
Yeah.
So there's years and years and years of Gollum wandering around. There's this ongoing wild compression and cross overlapping of historical events that the writers are indulging in here.
Yeah. And he's in Mordor, tortured by Sauron for like 9 years too.
Whoa.
All before I can't remember the years off the top of my head. So, but I mean, we're still decades before Frodo would have the ring at that point.
Yeah, and that 17-year gap, it's always important to remember that, like, within that time, Aragorn would capture Gollum, but that was already after he was set loose from Sauron and all of these things, in which the movie is it doesn't say how much time, passes.
I do love it's funny because you watch these films now and you think of the memes that have come since, and there's one where like Frodo asks Gollum like why won't you read the ring now. He's like, because I'm going to do it later in Rivendell, and you just wait to see the look on Elrond's face or something. Or Elrond's going to lose his mind or something like that.
Yeah, waiting for my dramatic entrance to do that.
I love that it's heard his master's call. I love how freaked out they look here in a second.
Yeah.
What?
So, Matt, let me ask you this. Do you think when Sauron was drowned in the downfall of Numenor, are you of the school of thought that says he had the ring and his spirit carried it back to Barad-dûr, or that he left it at Barad-dûr?
So I covered this when I had Corey Olsen on. And his point of view was that he set it aside, because it does say that he set it aside. So I guess it makes sense that he would do that to prevent the Numenorians from
taking
it.
Yeah.
You know, if that's it just seems odd to me that he would part with it too, you know?
Same, unless he knew he was, you know, my spirit will be back, and this is going to be the anchor for me to return. It could be like that.
Yeah. So Cliff, what's your... Cliff's probably looking it up right now in the book.
Oh, yeah. I think you're muted, my friend.
Oh, he's muted again.
I'm looking up all kinds of stuff. Forgive me. There's a lot going on here. The question at hand, gentlemen, please, again.
Do you believe that that Sauron had the One Ring during the downfall of Numenor with him, and his spirit carried it back to Barad-dûr, or do you believe that he left it at Barad-dûr when he was captured?
No, I'm fairly certain that Professor Tolkien clarified that even in his letters, in his correspondences. Professor Tolkien said, I don't think it should boggle the mind or be such a bother for people to think that, you know, the spirit of Sauron carried the ring over the open waves after the destruction of Numenor. So as Tolkien has addressed that super specifically, I'm in the camp that the ring was with Sauron when he was willingly taken prisoner by the authorities of Numenor and taken from Middle-earth to the island continent, and he had it with him and used it the entire time over the process of corrupting the kingship and the leadership of Numenor. And Professor Tolkien spoke to that and said, you know, it should not boggle your brains, people, that his disembodied spirit would take this ring and carry it all the way back to Mordor. And so it was addressed to me in that way. If you'd like, I'll go grab the letters and see where I can find that. But I don't know where I'm going to find it, but I'll look. It is something that I wonder if Amazon's going to even show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you think about Sauron being separated from his ring, he was so much less powerful when he was separated from it. Why at that point, when the downfall of Numenor was his key thing that he wanted to accomplish, why would he leave his ring behind in Barad-dûr?
It's a great point. It's a very great point.
So here's another... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, nothing. I'm just so, you know, it's when Gandalf goes from being grumpy to being very avuncular. When Gandalf does this, and his shift of tone from being super serious to, oh, you hobbits are so adorable. It's so cool. It's really cool. When
you can see all the history of the love that he's carried for the hobbits, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Ian McKellen, I mean, gosh, could they have done, they couldn't have done any better.
Man, absolutely.
It's perfect. So here's an interesting question from Brando. Why did Bilbo age faster than Gollum without the ring?
Uh-oh. That's a great question.
I have a fun thought on this. I'll let you guys go first.
Well, I only would suggest that it was the length of time. Bilbo had it for centuries less time than Gollum had it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's also, I think, perhaps at a more selfish level, Gollum still wanted it, so he still held it within his his persona. He still kind of held on to it mentally and emotionally, versus Bilbo let it go. He, obviously he was tempted a little bit here and there, but he let it go overall. I like your answer better though, that it's like, he had it for less time than Gollum.
Yeah.
But
I think a combination of those is kind of where I land. I've kind of thought of it as, Gollum had it for centuries, and going back to that analogy of butter scraped over too much bread, he's just scraped over so much bread that, I don't like, now I'm blanking on how I usually verbalize this. But he's just so stretched out and has lost so much of his humanity that that's what lingers. Whereas Bilbo, like you said, he gives it up willingly. He's at peace with, for the most part, until we see the jump scare later. But he's more so left it behind. He doesn't sit there and dwell on it every day. So he's kind of free to age in peace, so to speak.
We're sorry to do this, but we're at that point in the film where people had notoriously said that there's a car. This is the shot. This is the shot where they said there was a exhaust from an automobile in the background. But you know what it is? It's a chimney. There's a little Hobbit home with a chimney going in the background. It's not a car, but that's a little piece of an urban legend.
I thought what I had heard was down like one of the roads or something, maybe off to the left, upper left here.
Yeah.
So allegedly it was removed after the theatrical release, so it never made it onto home media, was what I heard. But there again, I didn't see this in theaters, so I couldn't tell you, even if I knew about it then.
Well, especially with this new 4K edition that I'm watching, I'm having a very hard time finding where this would be. But I heard it was fixed from the regular version to the extended edition, and that the effects team and the effects people at Weta have been silent about it for 20 years. It might be the best kept secret in movie history.
See, that's what when I had Richard Taylor on here, I should have asked him about that.
Yes.
He probably wouldn't have told me, though. He might not have told me.
This is one of my favorite scenes in the whole fellowship.
Yes, absolutely. It's the music, it's the photography, it's everything about it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Back when I was in choir, I found arrangements of that. I wanted the women's choir to perform it just so I could hear it.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You have a lot of choir experience too?
Yeah, I do. I was in it throughout all of middle school and high school, and that and theater is my things.
Yep. Me
you,
too.
Have you done any singing videos on your channel?
Oh gosh. Oh yes. Yes.
I've done The Last Goodbye. I actually partnered up with my brother, who made like the backing track and everything like that.
Oh, nice.
I did a cover of that. Thank you very much.
Dude, I have to check that out.
It's super good.
Oh, thank you so much, Clifford.
I love it. And here we get to see the beautiful Ring of Isengard when it's full of orchards and trees. And did I say orchards? Because that's how Tolkien described it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Before all the destruction. And then that shot of Christopher Lee coming down the stairs in Orthanc, it might be one of the weakest blue screen shots in the film. And the 4K hasn't improved it much, but there it is.
But still, compared to a lot of other cinema today, I mean, it's still pretty good.
Oh yeah, still yeah. It's still better than watching Seinfeld, where they're driving around in the car and then this really bad projection behind them in the car. It's still better than that. So.
Now, there's one another common question I've heard is, especially because in the books by this time, Saruman has already begun breeding orcs and everything for decades by this point. And people always ask me, how could Gandalf show up here and not notice that? Well, there's caverns underneath Isengard.
Yeah.
And that's where all this orcish activity, obviously we'll see it here in a little bit where it's all destroyed and the trees are chopped down and everything. But all this is happening underneath the ground, underground. So when Gandalf rolls up, it looks like it ever has.
Do you think Saruman waited and he said after Gandalf comes, then we'll up.
Tear this place apart. Yeah.
That's funny.
All right, here's a good question from Arc Trooper Echo. Favorite / least favorite extended edition changes? So we'll limit it to Fellowship if you, or we could do any of the trilogy.
It's funny.
Won't impose rules.
I'm not as familiar with the theatrical edition because growing up, I really only watched the extended. It was actually only this, like within this year that I went back and watched just the theatrical. One of mine, if we're talking about the entire trilogy, cutting Saruman, like from the theatric, but then adding him, that was a great idea. But with the extended edition kind of making something a little bit poorer, I think sometimes the cinematic tropes were brought in. So Gandalf riding up to save Faramir in Return of the King, and then the Witch King being right there about to slay him and then being called away. In the theatrical version, I believe that scene was never there. So he was just
right.
That confrontation never happened.
Correct.
So it brought in a couple tropes. I don't know. What about you guys?
Well, I think that you're onto something. I have a big beef with the Screen Actors Guild for not giving Sir Christopher Lee a participation in the Ensemble Award for Return of the King. Because of that very reason, because his scenes were taken out of the theatrical version. Even though Sean Bean was allowed to have his name on the Ensemble Award, and he's not in the Return of the King. In the Return of the King, Sean Bean is only there for like a flashback, maybe.
It's that vision.
Yeah, him turning.
Sees him over the shoulder or something. Yeah,
and then that's it. And so Sean Bean got a full title card credit on Return of the King. Sir Christopher Lee was cheated out of all of that, and I'm still angry about it. That's one of the things that I wish had never been changed with. And they already had problems with Return of the King being 20 minutes over the 3-hour limit mark.
Yeah.
That New Line Cinema had contractually placed Peter Jackson under a 3-hour release time limit. So that's why Fellowship of the Ring was released at 2 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. Period. And
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's true. So it's crazy when you stop and think, what would they do with Christopher Lee? Well, he didn't even get to share in the biggest award that the Screen Actors Guild was going to give him before he passed. And that makes me upset. So
I do.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was gonna say I do love that if you go back and watch some of Christopher Lee's interviews around Return of the King, he does say, like after the extended come out, he's like, well, of course you would watch the extended edition. It's the only edition that I'm in.
True.
Yeah, I think as far as favorite extended edition changes, I always have trouble because the same thing you always say, like I've watched the extended. If I go to put them in, I put in the extended.
Exactly,
so I start to forget what's in there. I will just say in general, I love that how much of the extended edition stuff is straight from the books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like from big things to small things. Like one of the small things that I love, and it encapsulates what I love about their approach to these movies. It's such a small thing, but it's in Two Towers extended edition where Treebeard says you should not be waking, and he saves Merry and Pippin from the tree. It's straight Tom Bombadil's lines.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I love how often in these movies that when Fran and PJ and Philippa and everybody, when they needed something to go into a certain point, they pulled from other places from Tolkien.
I liked that. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And I will say, we just saw the we just saw the most we would get of Farmer Maggot and I will say I do lament the loss of Farmer Maggot because he's the one that tells the Nazgul to buzz off in the books, and I love it that he does that.
I think that was probably one of the tougher things they had with adapting The Fellowship of the Ring was the first 100 pages of the book. Amazing first 100 pages, but for the common audience movie watcher, because I think the first 100 pages, they're still in the Shire. They're still really taking their time.
Oh, for sure.
So I think establishing that, they definitely had to. I lament Tom Bombadil, of course, Fatty Bulger.
Right, Fatty Bulger, the fifth Hobbit.
Yep.
You guys notice how Frodo is the only one who keeps telling the hobbits, "You need to behave more cautiously."
Right.
It's Frodo who's telling them, "Put out that campfire. What the hell are you doing?" And he says, right now, he says, "Get off the road." He seems to have not explained to Merry and Pippin how dangerous the situation is.
Yeah.
Is this a problem? Is this something that maybe made it more risky and problematic for his cousins, Merry and Pippin? Samwise seems to have an understanding, a baseline understanding of how risky this situation is. But do you think it's bad form for Frodo not to have shared the reality of the danger before they get to Bree with his Hobbit friends? What do you think?
Yeah. Now, let's see here. I'm trying to think how this compares to the books, because Sam kind of lets the others in on what's going on for the most part. And
Merry had the whole conspiracy where he saw Bilbo just disappear once.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, that's weird."
But yeah, in the films, it does seem like, because like Merry says, that Black Rider was looking for something or someone, and kind of looks at Frodo, and Frodo's just like, "I need to get to Bree." It's like, we should fill him in a little bit here.
I think you're right, Clifford. I don't know if Frodo completely understood what was happening or who these Nazgul were.
Yeah.
But I think he could have at least told them, "Okay, if you're gonna journey with us, we're gonna have a lot of this."
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that Frodo, in the end, is the one to pay for their ignorance. But at the same time, like you say, he could have told them.
Yeah, I'm reminded in the book of the strength of the conspiracy with Frodo's cousins. It even included Fatty Bulger, who was the other Hobbit that knew what was going on with Frodo leaving the Shire.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you play certain Lord of the Rings games and they need to have another player, they'll include not just Merry, Pippin, Frodo, and Sam, but Fatty Bulger gets included as a fifth player.
That's awesome.
Because thematically, he knew what was going on and knew where Frodo was going with the ring to some degree. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm talking about the old classic Reiner Knizia board game that was released in the year 2000, right when this movie came out. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it was 20 years ago, guys. I just can't believe it was 20 years ago. Wow.
I've seen the pictures that Justin has been sharing on the Torn Twitter and Instagram. I saw one of you with blue hair the other day, Clifford.
That's me. Oh yeah,
I had no idea. I was like, I did not realize Clifford was used to be like the Dennis Rodman of the OneRing.net. I imagine you went to a different party with different color hair every time.
All the time, yeah. Every color of the rainbow. I've had Smurf blue and purple. And during the Two Towers Oscar party, I wanted to be the Ent who was on fire. So I had colored waves of orange, yellow, and red in my hair going up like the flame.
Amazing.
So it was tricolored fire hair. I did that once. Yeah. The things you didn't know you were going to learn today.
Oh yeah,
right.
I've learned so much. It's awesome. I see. For me, since this has always been a part of my life, part of me can't believe. I just can't believe it's only been 20 years.
Yeah.
It feels like whenever I watch a movie pre-2001, it's strange for me to say this happened at a time when Fellowship hadn't even come out yet. The Lord of the Rings trilogy wasn't a thing yet. It's strange. It's strange.
I love this where it's where he asks him what business brings you to be, and Frodo's like, our business our own. He's like, all right, jeez, man, jeez.
Chill, it's all right.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Oh, cameo.
Yeah, there he is.
There he is.
Oh, carrots. I'm in the mood to get carrots now from the fridge. Suddenly.
I did see it. I years ago, I saw a like Lord of the Rings Halloween costume ideas list, and one of them was to just walk around dressed up like a guy from Bree and just munch on carrots the whole night.
Anyone who understands that, like the one person
Would
at the
love
party
it.
who's like, that's awesome. Yeah. New best friends.
Everyone else would be like, you know, we have food here, right? You don't have to eat carrots. I love, so this was reinforced to me the other day. Like I said, I was listening to the BBC dramatization and how similar the voices in the dramatization are to the voices of the characters here. Like even Barlaman kind of sounds like his counterpart in the dramatization from 1971, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I also I love in the books, and the dramatization has it as well, but one of the best insults is Strider yelling at Butterbur, because Butterbur says something like, oh, I wouldn't take up with a ranger if I were you, to Frodo, and Aragorn says something like who should they take up with? A fat innkeeper who only remembers his name because people yell at him all day.
Yeah, shout at it.
So I laugh out loud every time I read that. It's so good.
Yeah, that is awesome.
But yeah, I do enjoy Butterbur though. One thing drives out another. And how great is this this reveal of Aragorn, man?
The music.
Yeah.
When Frodo's falling and everything, it's
like you got Butterbur, his delivery just kind of like he's a little freaked out by him. That little transition there.
Mm-hmm.
Try to.
Have you guys seen the fan films Born of Hope or Hunt for Gollum?
Oh yeah, good stuff.
I have.
I love
yeah,
those.
It's been a while, but yeah, I have.
Yeah, Born of Hope with Aragorn's upbringing and
yeah,
the story of Arathorn. It's I love it.
It's really classy stuff. It's well made, really good.
Yeah. It really is. See, to your point, Clifford, if Frodo had told Pippin and Merry his purpose here, just like, oh, don't use my name, this could have been avoided potentially.
Yeah. It indeed, the whole scene, the scenes here in Prancing Pony are written with an understanding that Pippin and Merry are pretty clueless to the risks that are really going on. I love this. The way Aragorn jumps up a little bit from his chair. Oh, so cool.
Oh, crap.
Oh. I mean, in the movie, we're not even with the fake alias. Are we? I mean, wait, does Frodo use the name Underhill?
He does, but Pippin, I guess, is spacing out. He doesn't hear it.
He starts talking about Baggins and everything. And
Yes. Yeah.
That's the one thing they're not supposed to do.
Do you know, for years and years and years, nobody knew what it was the voice of the ring was saying in that moment?
Really?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And then the riddle was answered when people could watch the first DVD release and turn on the captions.
Oh, that's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. I guess for some people who don't have the most keen hearing of the elves, that would be me. was looking through
I'm
Tolkien's
right there with
letters,
you.
and yeah, you know, too many rock and roll concerts in my youth, that's for sure. I cannot find in Tolkien's letters what I was looking for, but I'm sure I'm going to find it. Here's a part where he was discussing Sauron being taken prisoner to Numenor. But onward, do you know also intriguing is the way that the poor gatekeeper just gets
Flattened.
Yeah.
squished, completely squished.
Right? Like he probably would have let him in. I mean, he didn't even make Frodo say what his business was. So if they would have knocked, he would have let him in.
When I figured out that was the actor who played Walder Frey in Game of Thrones and killed so many main characters, I'm like, all right, well, if that was Walder Frey, that's okay, right?
Was it though? Was it this? Was it the same?
So.
That's
he was in
that's
Harry
the same.
Potter as well. Yeah,
That's the actor who played Argus Filch. Was that really
Are
him?
you serious?
Yeah,
That's
that
not.
that was Walder Frey. Unless maybe the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but
Oh my gosh.
I love this part. So coming up here where the camera movement, the inner videographer of me loves this, that Frodo is leaning forward and leans back as the camera passes him. And that's how they managed to get the shot coming up, the Hobbit's reaction shot, right?
Here it is.
There, he leans back.
Yeah.
But because the camera is moving, it like masks.
I must be mistaken. For some reason, I thought I researched that a couple years ago. I'm mistaken. All right, I thought that was the same actor. Never mind.
Oh.
Nope, it's a different guy. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here you go. I found it. While Aragorn is telling us about the Nazgul falling into darkness and becoming slaves to Sauron's will, here's a little bit in the letters where Tolkien talks about Sauron's experiences with Farazon and the Akalabeth. It says here, Sauron's personal surrender was voluntary and cunning. He got free transport to Numenor! ! Okay. He naturally had the One Ring, and so very soon dominated the minds and the wills of most of the Numenorians.
Mm-hmm.
Parenthesis, I do not think Ar-Pharazôn knew anything about the One Ring. The elves kept the matter of the rings very secret as long as they could. And then on the next page, it says, though reduced to a spirit of hatred born on a dark wind, I do not think one need boggle at this spirit carrying off the One Ring, upon which his power of dominating minds now largely depended. So Tolkien addressed it, clear as day.
There you go.
That's amazing. I didn't come into this tonight thinking I'd get an answer to that.
Yes.
That's incredible.
I love it. Do you know what? I couldn't do what I've been doing on the OneRing.net for 20 years without having access to Tolkien's letters, and more specifically, a book by Richard Blackwelder, which is a Tolkien thesaurus. Have you guys ever seen this?
I have not.
No, I haven't.
This Tolkien thesaurus is long out of print, and it is an index. It's the ultimate index of every word on every single page that ever appears in The Lord of the Rings. And it indexes every page where you can find it and catch the reference of where the poetry or where the text is, where a word, any kind of word, adjective, noun, or verb is used in the books. It's amazing.
Wow. I love the dedication. It's incredible.
It's hardcore.
Who's the author or who's of that book?
Richard E. Blackwelder. I don't know if you guys can see it on my camera. But yeah. Okay, so I've in terms of my scholarship, when I need to find something to reference it, that's the book I've always used to find things quickly when I need to talk clearly about them. So here's Strider humming. There's music coming from this man in the Midgewater Marshes. We should have anticipated him singing. He's singing in Elvish now.
Yeah.
We should have anticipated him singing at his own coronation, but it's just the fact that Viggo Mortensen replaced Stuart Townsend, who didn't behave very much like he wanted to be on the film, and it's just such a remarkable presence that Viggo is into the lore and the music and the poetry that is the background of his character's lineage. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff. I mean, the best job that Peter Jackson did as a director was working with his casting people and getting this particular cast for this trilogy. It's the best. It's the best.
I 100% agree. I could never see anybody else playing Aragorn, to be honest. They cast Aragorn to play Aragorn. It's incredible. He's been such an inspiration to me my entire life.
Now here we've got another interesting question from the chat. Did Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone come out the same year Fellowship of the Ring did? And do you remember the rivalry between Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter at the time? And this was actually these early 2000s. Not only did we have Harry Potter gearing up and Lord of the Rings gearing up, but we also had Star Wars going on. This would have come out 2 years after Phantom Menace and 1 year before Attack of the Clones. So we had like 3 of the juggernaut fantasy franchises all going at the same time.
And it's interesting how history kind of repeats itself. Not so much Harry Potter,
they have the Fantastic Beasts movies.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But Star Wars and now Marvel and Lord of the Rings again, and it's interesting.
I love the designs on so many of these orcs, and the practical effects aspect.
They still hold up so well.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's awesome in the 4K too. You can see the individual trees falling so much clearer. This is another one of those moments. There's so many moments in these films that point toward the deeper, larger history. Like this was the Great Watchtower of Amansul, and it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. You gotta tell us more about? Nope.
That's
all
I
you
need
find out.
Like an Angmar War, Kingdom of Arnor movie or TV show. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that by the end of this movie, I was like, I want to know all of it. Tell me all of it. Yeah, again, of Gondor point out, Amansul, we might see that in the Amazon show. There's a lot of things like that we might see. Orthanc is another one.
Absolutely. The idea is to see what those things looked like when they were shiny and new and beautiful, as opposed to so many centuries later, crumbled in nothing but, later on in this film, when Boromir is approaching Frodo in the woods, you're stopping and thinking to yourself, what is this old statue head behind them in the scene? Well, it's another sign that we're in an age of decay, when the great kingdoms of old have decayed to almost nothingness. And it's a chance for Amazon to show us Second Age glory, when everything was shiny and beautiful.
I missed a super chat a little bit ago, but Tim wanted me to point out that he is eating a potato dinner in honor of the stream tonight. So
very good.
We're not even to that iconic line yet. That'll be next year's 20th anniversary stream.
Although Sean Astin's potato on a chain from that.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, so funny.
That was pretty good. Of course, we get the ring wraith theme again that I'm such a fan of.
You'll be humming it for a whole week.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So we are now in the unseen world. That's a capital U, okay?
Mhm.
And
Right.
we should understand some of the distinctions in Professor Tolkien's world building between the seen and the unseen world.
Yes. Which we
It
would
is-
see if we had
Yeah.
Glorfindel, you know, if
Yeah,
he,
he'd be
you know,
shining
that's
right
kind of,
through.
that's one of the things, you know, with the
Exactly.
you know, the change with Arwen there. She glows and everything, but with Glorfindel, we find out, you know, that Frodo actually sees him as he exists in the unseen world.
I'm amazed how early in the shooting process Vigo had to come in, get up to speed. He was the replacement guy. He had to get familiar with his team, the crew, his fellow actors, and he had to pick up that sword and start doing it. And here he is doing it.
I want to say this was this one of his first scenes, if not his very first scene that they shot?
I think I've heard that story.
Towards the beginning,
these scenes was some of the very first ones he shot in this Weathertop scene. Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. What wonderful camera work! That bringing the camera up over the ring of the ruins while the Nazgul runs off to the bottom of the frame, and it's just so. Andrew Lesnie has my eternal gratitude and admiration and love for the way he photographed this film. It's just amazing.
I love, and I know Cliff, you and I have talked about this before, but someone was bringing up Strider in the chat here, and it made me think of you know, the fact that I believe it was when I had Ian Nathan on the channel. He brought up the fact that it would have been all too easy for PJ to have Eowyn in a metal bikini to fight the Witch King, or, you know, or have a shirtless scene with Aragorn and be like, here's Aragorn's abs and stuff. And like, they don't do any of that. And it's like, Aragorn is still awesome, and people still want to be Aragorn or be Aragorn's spouse. You know, you don't have to show him in a shirtless scene or whatever. And like, it's just,
it's more about action and
I appreciate like, it just, it's, I feel like it's, for lack of a better term, true to the world Tolkien created.
Yeah, I mean, the characterization really shines through. It's about the actions they took, the virtues that characters exhibited, and that carries all three films.
Yeah.
Indeed. There's the moth. There's the iconic moth that has mistakenly let a lot of the fandom who've not read the books think that Gandalf is Dr. Dolittle. It's actually Radagast's bailiwick to be speaking to the moths, really. But there's not much more gross and enthralling at the same time than watching these birth pods in the caverns of Isengard. It's just so gross.
Oh yeah,
so gross.
And I believe Tolkien talks. I don't remember the reference for it, but how trolls are made from the substances of the earth, and it's great to see that they went a similar way with the orcs and the Uruk-hai.
Yeah, you can no amount of CGI could ever get this disgusting.
Oh yeah,
glop.
Oh yeah,
it's so cool. And my hat is off to Lawrence Makoare, who was in the makeup chair for hours and hours and hours just to do that job.
Long time. That's right.
Wild. He's a great guy. He's a great fellow.
And of course, we get the callback to the Hobbit with the trolls. That was an extended edition moment, I believe. I don't know if he referenced the trolls in the theatrical.
Yeah.
No, this is purely extended. This scene, with Mr. Bilbo's trolls. Yeah.
So we've got another question from the chat here. Who's the better Dark Lord, Melkor or Sauron, and why?
Oh, who's the better Dark Lord?
Yeah.
Like
more effective or our favorite or
it's tough.
I will say, like, when I think of the two of them, I think of Morgoth as more of the just straight up oppressor, just destroying people any way he can. Whereas what I like about Sauron, especially when it comes to Second Age, is how manipulative he is and how cunning, and how you see it over and over again that his...
Wait a second, Matt. Is that Glorfindel? Is that Glorfindel? Oh,
is it?
Nope.
Wow.
Sorry. Fooled again.
This is the moment in the theater where the diehards were like, boo, what is going on?
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Matt. I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
I definitely appreciate the Arwen time. I think I do wish we would have seen more of Arwen in the books as well, and have her have more agency, especially in regards to the story of Beren and Luthien and how she resembles Luthien.
Right.
So I do wish we would have seen her have more agency in the books.
Yeah. And I love the character of Glorfindel, but I totally understand why they did this, because like you have to have some investment in Arwen, going forward in these films. And if she just shows up in Rivendell and doesn't do a whole lot, it's hard to be invested in her. But she's going to be outriding Nazgul here soon and standing up to them at the river. Like, it's really, really good stuff. So I have no complaints whatsoever what they did here. I say it in jest when I say, like, oh, she shouldn't glow because she hasn't been to Valinor. So
I agree. I agree with the way that Arwen was very carefully and beautifully inserted into these three films. Because you get an understanding of why Aragorn feels the way he feels. And you get to look into Aragorn's eyes, and you can often see Arwen is there behind his eyes all the time. And without Liv Tyler being so strong and so present in the films like this, then it wouldn't ring as true for Viggo. So it worked for him. Certainly. It benefits Viggo's character work a lot that Arwen is shown the way she is in this enhanced way, different from the books. In terms of just pure cinema. But back to your previous question from the chat, who's the greater Dark Lord? It would be Morgoth. I think he was the greater Dark Lord because he was willing to do things, I think, that were far, far more destructive and pure evil for his own greed and his own pride than Sauron. I think Sauron was kind of the villain who wanted to be, for 10 seconds, he wanted to be the good guy who could show remorse and bring order to the chaos of Middle-earth and order things in an orderly way to make things better. And then he fell again into the old teachings of his buddy, his daddy, Morgoth, so to speak. I think that Sauron had a chance and was a little bit closer to being, a real Maiar. A Maiar who could really make a better difference. And there was almost that redemptive arc. It was quickly abandoned by, in the Second Age. But Morgoth never, ever, ever, ever had that.
Right.
So
that's a good point.
I think the most evil and most effective of the Dark Lords would have been Morgoth, just for the pure, autocracy and ego, the pure ego that drove Morgoth to the decisions he made. But that's just my small take on it.
No,
I just have to say, I love that jump cut there to like the close up of Liv Tyler's face, like right in the middle of that line.
Oh yeah.
Where she says, if you want him, come and claim him. And it cuts close to her. Oh man, it's so good.
You're right. It's brilliant.
Designs on her sword and everything. And oh my goodness.
And it's the same sword that Elrond uses in the Hobbit films.
Oh yeah.
Hugo Weaving uses when they fight the Nazgul in Dol Guldur. And the story behind this, I believe, if I'm recalling this right, I think in one of the behind the scenes books, they say that that sword at one time belonged to shoot. I want to say like it was somebody from the first age, like it wasn't like Luthien.
Was
but
it like Icthelion or someone?
No, I think it was a direct descendant.
Oh
shoot. Now I'm gonna have to look it up. Dang it. I had it.
It's okay.
I had it.
That's okay. That's what we do. We look things up, or we'll have someone in the chat look it up for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So throwing my 2 cents with that question, I agree with what both of you said. The more chaotic and truly evil villain has to be Morgoth. He was totally okay with wiping out all of the children of Iluvatar if they didn't submit to him. But I think as a villain, as a character, Sauron has to be the more entertaining one, because he takes new ideas and he really runs with it. Okay, I'm going to be a vampire now. I'm going to be a werewolf now in the first age, I'm going to trick everybody during the second age, and then the third age, I'm just going to wait until they're weak enough, and then I'm just going to move in. And he really takes new strategies with stride.
Okay, so I found the sword on Hathafang, I believe.
That's how you pronounce it. Yeah,
yes.
That's it.
The inscription on it reads, Idril ihel en Aran Gondolin, which means Idril, daughter of the king of Gondolin.
That is
awesome. My goodness.
It's Idril's sword. Oh, yeah. That's sweet. I didn't know that.
So obviously,
my goodness, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that's all created for the films. But the fact that they thought to write that, like, who's going to notice that? Nobody's going to notice that. But they did it, and that is a great encapsulation of why these films are so amazing, is because they took that level of care into every aspect of these films.
Indeed. Do you think that there's a moment where Arwen literally says to the audience, "What grace is given to me, let it pass to him"? Is that the moment in the film where she's literally giving up her chance to go on the last ship and let Frodo go to Valinor?
So I think
in one of people interpret this differently, of course.
Sure.
So if you recall, because back when they would release trailers for these films, I would watch the trailer so many times leading up to it. And in one of the trailers for Return of the King, Hugo Weaving says to her,
I cannot protect you anymore.
You gave up your life's grace. I can't protect you anymore, or something like that.
Right.
And I always assumed that's what that was connecting to, was like she passed, she helped save Frodo's life, or held off him dying essentially, or becoming a wraith, by giving up her immortality.
It's a really interesting point. And because Arwen, gives him the necklace in the book, and obviously she gives Aragorn the necklace here around the same time, I have to imagine it was inspired by that scene where she does give up her grace in the books.
Mm-hmm. We got another interesting question from the chat. Of all the major themes in Lord of the Rings, which resonates with you? Which resonates most with you, and why? So I don't know if this means themes as in like the music, or themes as in like the storytelling device.
I would assume that the major theme might be a literary theme.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would say that the most fascinating thing to me in the movie's themes is the idea of despair against and despair and hopelessness, in contrast with hope and the aspirational quality of hope that drives people forward, even in the face of great difficulties or adversity. And that theme is thoroughly dug and around and ground and back again in all these three films, and it is a huge success. The exploration of having hope and faith in times when you don't even have a reason to have any hope or faith at all.
Yeah.
And still you carry forward. That was explored brilliantly in these three films. So
I Yeah, I entirely agree. Part of my Lord of the Rings tattoo that I have is the crownless shall again be king. To always
The one that you're not showing us.
Right.
Actually, I have done an arm reveal.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
Sure that is over on my Facebook and Twitter and all that if you guys want to see my tattoo. But
I'd love that.
That's not on your OnlyFans, is it?
No, of course not.
It sounds. I mean, we're getting a little sketchy here.
Oh my goodness.
But
Funny.
It's that line from the poem of Aragorn to always remind me of that same theme. And I think Aragorn's scene in the Two Towers with the boy of the Rohirrim looking lost and looking just hopeless. His deliverance of "there's always hope." I completely agree, Clifford. It's hope overcoming the darkness. That's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Do you know when Theoden looks into his niece's eyes and says, "No more despair.
Yeah.
I would have you smile again."
Yeah.
That's it. It. My heart, my soul is exploding. That's it. Yeah. It's right there. It's right there. Like, if you're wondering how literal it could be, that's how literal it gets in these movies.
It's amazing.
But
all right,
it is amazing.
We got an interesting debate from the books. Éomer and Gimli want to know who is fair, Galadriel or Arwen. Galadriel saw the light of Valinor, sure, but Arwen resembles Luthien, fairest of all.
Oh my gosh, that's a really, really tough call. Oh, who is more fair?
How can we?
Oh my gosh, know what?
They're both fair.
I guess it depends on your definition of fair, right? Arwen is she's been through far less and she's less grim than Galadriel. So I'm not sure if that makes her more fair in an innocent sort of way, or if because Galadriel's beauty harkens all the way back to the very light of the two trees, if that makes her more fair. So it definitely comes down to what did Gimli and Éomer say? It's yours is the twilight and mine is the dawn.
Oh, yes.
Good one, Yoystan. Good one. That's a good one. Yeah, I remember that now. Thank you. That's great. Actually, I'm not going to answer that except with a joke, and I'm just going to say, Yavanna is the most fair. That's all I got to say.
There you go.
I'm gonna dilute the conversation. I'm sorry, but no. If you had to say, there is a metaphysical thing going on at all times with Tolkien, and I would say maybe Galadriel might automatically win that one because of her spiritual closeness to Valinor and the two trees, having been there firsthand and seen it all herself. So that might tip the scales. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I completely agree. And something that we get with this 4K edition is just looking in the backgrounds of these particular sets, all the statues, all the engravings, that someone took the time to make these sets is just, I'll always be eternally grateful.
And this room that they're in right now, it's very brief, but you see the wide shot of it. It's the same room that in the Hobbit trilogy, we see them talking about
a food fight.
Talking about the map when Thorin's being kind of stubborn about it before they go to read the moon runes.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it's the same room.
Oh, yes, indeed. You know what?
Now here is the scene that this is my dream of how the Amazon show would end, would be with this scene right here, essentially.
Yes.
Recreated. And just have Elrond shout Isildur, and then bam, cut to black, end of show.
It's amazing.
Done.
That's great.
And Isildur says no, cut to black. Dun, dun, dun. Oh wow. That would be the thunderclap that made fandom explode. That would be amazing. Because it would thematically
do a sequel series and do the whole Lord of the Rings over again or something. But it would make a cool series finale for at least 1 year,
It's kind of awesome to think how circular they could make it. They could make all kinds of effort to make it circular back to
Mhm.
Peter's films. But I do have an understanding they're trying to break away and make their own thing
Yeah.
at Amazon Studios.
Now this part right here is an interesting part. You know, we have a big difference, I would say, between books and films, where Elrond, you know, says he has chosen exile, which is kind of the first hint we get that this is not the book Aragorn
Yeah.
as we know him, because he's not the guy who's embraced his destiny and, you know, marches into every place to say like, hey, by the way, this is my sword, Anduril, the reforged sword who was once Narsa. Like, here's the genealogy of my sword. It's super important. You know, he's a much more low key, you know, not sure of himself kind of guy. So this is an interesting thing for me, you know, having seen the films first, to find out like, oh, Aragorn's much more confident in the books.
Same, yeah, and I really appreciate both arcs as they play within the film and the book.
Absolutely.
Just because here it makes sense. We don't get all that background with Aragorn and Arwen, and that he's doing these things, the reunited kingdom and all of that, in order to marry her, or that's even a prerequisite.
Yeah.
I love the arc of him deciding and becoming, you know, I need to become the king in order to save my people.
Yeah.
Equally, as much as I love the idea that he realizes the destiny he's got on him and how this ties with Frodo in the book.
Now we've got some more trivia here from Celebrimbor. He says Grond, so in the third film, Grond has rooms carved into it which read, no wall between, no power against, no endurance of souls, Grond, the will of Mordor.
Wow.
That was a beautiful prop. I visited Weta Workshop in New Zealand, and I saw the Grond battering ram. It's really huge. It's huge. It's not full size, but I did see those runes carved into it, and I could not read them. I could not understand. You know, it's some form of Elvish. I can't read it, but it was really remarkable to see up close.
You didn't have your Elvish pocket dictionary on you that day.
No, I didn't. Sorry.
I must imagine that that's also a reference to, in the book, the Witch King. He says incantations on Grond as it's breaking the wall. I wonder if that is the movie's version of his incantations, if he was the one to inscribe that on Grond.
I wonder too.
I've got another question here. Would the films have benefited with adding text for the date / location when introducing a new scene? I personally, I wouldn't want to see that. I think that those kind of, for me personally, take me out of it. It would take me out of it a little bit more. Yeah, I don't think dates are necessary. It definitely feels more condensed, obviously, than the books, and I don't think it's till Return of the King when, you know, Frodo says it's 3 years to the day since Weathertop or something, that you get a sense for how long this journey took. Or he says 13 months since we set out, something like that, you know, that we returned. You know, that's when you kind of get a sense for how long this whole journey took. But yeah, I kind of like the less things to distract me from being enthralled in the story, I guess.
Yeah, same. I usually, in my lore videos, I'll mark a lot of dates that I mention or whatever, but that's just to inscribe as much lore as possible into the videos, just to like show everybody when something is happening. But in the movies, it helps rewatchability. It's like, oh, when did this happen? Was this Imladris or Lothlorien? You know, and yeah, it really it immerses you to not have that.
You know, this conversation with Aragorn and Arwen here, with the beautiful music in the background, and she gives him the pendant, the Even Star pendant. It's just amazing. But sometimes you want to tell your friends before you go into theater, oh, by the way, you know, the elves are immortal, but, you know, if they don't want to be, you know, they can make a choice.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you want to give some of your friends who have never read it and never seen it a little bit of a brush up, so that the impact of some of these characters' decisions can hit a little stronger. it's just.
And
It's
speaking
so
of
cool.
which, if anyone in the stream here, anybody has not read The Tale of Aragorn and Arwen in the appendices, you absolutely need to do that after the stream or tomorrow. Definitely no later than like in the next week, because it is
100% agree.
amazing. And it is some of the most beautiful of Tolkien's writings. I feel like the whole them wrestling with mortality as Aragorn's life comes to an end is just,
those
it is
lines have impacted
powerful
my
stuff.
my personal philosophy in life and everything. From mine is to return the gift. Aragorn talking about saying my time has come. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well said.
Here it is.
Gandalf said he wouldn't speak those words of Mordor and Bag End, but he's willing to speak them in Imladris.
Yeah. It's like, I've got an audience now that needs to understand what we're up agast here. So.
And it shows he was more merciful towards hobbits than he is towards elves and
I love
dwarves.
I love like the meme says, like, Elrond's gonna lose his mind when I do it in Rivendell.
I'm actually surprised Elrond didn't get more pissed off about it.
Yeah, right.
That's a good point.
I mean, you are absolutely defiling the elvish air around you. Do you remember the editing explanation that they had on the extended box set of DVDs, where in the appendices, Michael Pellerin and the team put together a little documentary to show how complex it was for Peter and his editors to edit this Council of Elrond scene? Do you guys remember that from the appendices?
Faintly, it kind of rings a bell.
It's worth seeing.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
Mithrandir attacked his computer.
And I love the Gondor theme that plays when Boromir starts talking. And
right, we just get that little hint of it.
Yeah, there's a video my dad showed me from some YouTube channel. I can't remember right now, but I saw it a couple months ago where they talked about how Howard Shore's themes, such as those of Gondor and Rohan especially, how certain moments were actually reversed or they were made minor to show the distraught in the kingdoms. Like I believe when Gandalf was writing to Minas Tirith, the Gondor theme was like somehow flipped or inversed to show that Gondor was not where it needed to be. It needed help. It needed aid. It's incredible.
Yeah, we could. Oh my gosh, the music alone. I'm sure Clifford, you're probably going to bring. You might brought this up too, but Doug Adams's book on the music of the Lord of the Rings is amazing. It's so interesting because I am one who am not musically inclined, but I find the books and podcasts and stuff on these film scores to be utterly fascinating of how they use leitmotifs, and like Yoystan was talking about how they use the music to convey things that you can't even put your finger on until it's pointed out to you, and you're like, it just like clicks, and you understand what they're doing to make you feel the way you feel.
Absolutely. We had great in-depth commentary with Doug Adams and his compatriot Jim J. Ware. Doug Adams wrote the music of the Lord of the Rings, and he worked with Howard Shore so closely. It was really fantastic to learn some in-depth details right from Douglas, who was there when these things happened, explaining the changing of the music, the leitmotifs. Just wild how deeply considered they are on every level. It's just really, really cool stuff. You can say what you want about the Hobbit trilogy being a mess or whatever, but if you were watching the Hobbit movies first before you saw this scene, you would completely understand Legolas and Gimli's negative energy,
Yeah.
Right.
and Gimli's negative attitude towards elves.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it does inform the conversation
Oh,
a
for
bit.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will often defend the Hobbit movies. I think they get way more flack than they ever deserve.
I agree.
I think as prequels go, I look at other, big series, and you've got the Hobbit films, you've got Fantastic Beasts for the Harry Potter, you got the prequels for Star Wars. I'll take the Hobbit films any day over what has come from some of the other franchises.
Yeah.
Like I love that I can watch the Hobbit films, and when I come back to Lord of the Rings, there's nothing that happens in the Hobbit films that detracts from what happens in Lord of the Rings.
It
Like
either
the character
doesn't
of Bilbo, especially, Bilbo, like there's more weight to the moments, with him
more
giving up the
context.
ring and everything. Yeah, there's more context behind that. And, I don't think anything that the Hobbit films did takes away from anything that you see in Lord of the Rings, any of the greatness of Lord of the Rings.
I agree.
And if there's one thing, if we're talking about Hobbit films, if there's one thing that I've learned from, researching and learning about that process is, I think there's some studio things going on there that, love triangles that were mandated, and,
Oh, don't mention that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I love that look. Hugo's his eyebrow, man. That's the moment where I'm like, man, that guy's got some epic eyebrows. I love it.
He sure does. Oh my gosh. I got a feeling that we're near the end of disc 1, right?
We are.
Yep.
Yes. After Pippin's infamous where are we going line here in a minute.
Where are we going? I do recommend for any of the fans who are watching us today to go back and check out the editing demonstration of how Peter and his editors did the work on the Council of Elrond. It's on the appendices of the Fellowship of the Ring Extended. And now I got to grab the disc and change the disc.
Yes.
Real quick.
I'm sure there's a lot of people doing that right now, so we won't go anywhere.
Yep.
We're just gonna we'll give everybody a few minutes, refill your drink. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and welcome our next guest into the stream.
Perfect. I shall be right back.
Sean Marchese, aka the Lord of the Mark, from the Prancing Pony podcast. Sean, how you doing today?
Hey, Matt, I'm good. How are you today?
Doing great. We're having a fun time. We're already halfway through this movie. It doesn't.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I'm just seeing where you guys are. I'm like, man, I missed the committee meeting and everything.
Hello there, Sean. Welcome aboard, everybody.
Hey, Clifford. Good to see you.
Great to see
Glad
you.
to be here.
Here's Mithrandir. He says, hello, everybody. Hi, everybody.
My cat Frodo is downstairs. I can't let him in the booth because there would just be chaos in here. But so Matt, I've got my I've got my Lord of the Rings ugly sweater.
Oh, fantastic!
For
oh, cool.
Festive.
That's great.
So for those who you probably already know who Sean is here from the Prancing Pony podcast. If you're not familiar, they run is it weekly?
It is
Sean,
a
that you guys read.
That's right. It is weekly. Every Sunday we've got a new episode. Yes,
and they pretty much go through Tolkien's works chapter by chapter. I absolutely love listening to it because it's a deep dive into the works, and just bringing out so much of the connections between different ages of Tolkien's stories and references. And there is just so much. I could rave about their podcast for ages, but I'm sure a lot of you have probably already seen the interview that I did with them here on the channel, or you already subscribe to their podcast. But if you haven't, you should totally check out Prancing Pony podcast. And speaking of which, we have your co-host Alan the man
There
of the
he
West.
is.
We have
Hey,
man of the
welcome,
West
everyone.
Welcome,
and man of
Sean.
the West.
Welcome,
I was
Alan.
wondering. I was beginning to wonder. I'm hearing all
He
this lovely talk about Sean. I'm just sitting here. in the
Where
green room
Alan's just sitting here
waiting.
waiting. No,
for
he's
the
just-
dramatic reveal.
That's
Right,
right.
exactly. No, thank you for having us on, Matt. It's a pleasure.
It's
and,
really our pleasure. And I'm sorry I couldn't join you earlier.
Oh, that's totally fine. You came at a perfect time. We were just allowing people to change discs. We just finished part 1, so we just had Pippin say, "Where are we going?" And so now we're gonna find out where they start going.
We missed the whole council, Alan.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
It only took us 5 episodes, so it's probably a good thing we missed it here.
Well,
we'd spend the whole time saying, "Matt, can you pause it? We've got something to talk about."
We got to talk about this for about a half hour. You don't mind, do you?
Well, we've got in case you guys in the chat haven't noticed, I do have 2 timers going. So if anybody is watching digitally, you'll look at the overall time at the top. But if you've switched over to another disc, then I've got the disc 2 timer. So I'm going to start those as close to the same time as I can. If it's not if you look at my setup over here, it's on a laptop, and it's not high tech at all. It's there. I was telling Yoystan before we started recording, I know there's got to be easier ways to do this, but I did it so that it works. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. I'll just roll with it. It works.
I don't feel too bad. I've got my iPad in front of me with the movie.
There you go.
You guys on the big screen. So
perfect. All right. Well, I think we've given everybody a chance. Clifford, are you synced up to where you're ready to hit play?
I put the disc in and hit resume, and then it resumed at the end of the credits where I had last finished watching the film. So I just reset it back to the chapter.
Okay.
I reset it, so we're ready to go right now whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right. Well,
all right.
Let me get my timers ready to roll here. All right, I'll do another countdown here. All right. We'll start part 2 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right.
And I just want to make sure we got this right. This is MST3K style, right? No.
Funny.
No.
Oh man.
Do you know what? I just know that I can read this gravestone. All I know is that my work at learning the Tengwar paid off, because as soon as this extended scene came on, I thought to myself, I can read that. I can actually read Gilrayan right there.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I remember when the movie came out, and we, those of us who could do those sorts of things, we could like impress our friends and annoy our coworkers with that kind of knowledge. And I did so much.
I'm not sure impress is the right word, Sean.
Impress friends, annoy coworkers.
Okay. All right. Fair.
Why else learn? Why else would you learn Tengwar?
Right. Exactly.
Exactly.
Gilrayan's last words to Aragorn, they always
my gosh.
And I love that they brought them into the Return of the King.
That comes in Return of the King. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are not familiar, what the reference we were talking about when Elrond says, "I give hope to men," and Aragorn responds, "I keep none for myself." That is the.
Does anybody remember the Elvish? I think it's Onani Estela Dain something.
That was more than I could recall.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
that was really remarkable.
It's in there somewhere with old song lyrics and things like that.
And here comes arguably the greatest jump scare of all time in cinema history.
A lot of people still can't handle it these days. It is Peter Jackson being very much Peter Jackson.
Yes,
very much the horror director chops coming out there.
Yeah. Oh, poor Ian Holm.
Right.
Poor Ian Holm. I feel so bad for him. He is the most beloved character, and we are brought to a moment of what the hell happened to you, Bilbo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
No?
have not aged well, sir.
Yeah.
Well, and talk about a wonderful way cinematically to show the corruption of the ring, right?
Yeah.
Because there's not a word spoken about what's happened to Bilbo, and yet we all see exactly what it is that's happened.
And yet, just like the books, there's a certain vagueness. Is Frodo seeing Bilbo this way, or is Bilbo this way?
Yeah.
And in the books, that same question lingers. You know, how much of this is Bilbo actually turning into this sort of thing, and how much of it is Frodo perceiving that because of his already growing obsession with the ring?
All right, we've got a question from the chat. Can anyone explain why they did my boy Gil-galad dirty and only gave him 1.5 seconds of screen time when he still assisted Sauron? I would say hold out for the Amazon show. You'll probably have it.
Yeah, we'll probably
there.
get a lot of Gil-galad in that.
Yeah.
Glorfindel says, "Yeah, hold my beer."
Yeah.
I mean, you know, well, it's 1.5 more seconds than I got.
I know I've seen a bunch of theories of like when Arwen's getting married, it's like 2 elves behind her. Oh, that's Glorfindel. That's Glorfindel.
Oh, yeah.
Or, you know.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's exactly.
Retconning that in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saves 2 Idril and Earendil in the first age, and he gets, elf wedding guest number 2.
Oh, we just missed the Mordor Gandalf. Is it left or right line?
Yeah.
That's perfectly key for a Frodo GPS, by the way.
Yeah, right.
I want my GPS thoroughly confused.
Yeah.
Now, Notorious Chill asks about the old ruins the Fellowship passes by after the Council of Elrond. What's the significance of this in the Lord of the Rings books? If it's the part coming up with the famous aerial montage here, that would be a Region.
Yeah.
And another.
And
sure
I am tempted.
location.
I'm very, very
Here we
tempted
are.
to say that
these right.
this shot,
Yep.
this might actually represent some of the ruins of Ost and Ethil. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did I say that wrong?
I don't know.
Sorry.
I just
sounded
the way
right
I
to me.
say it.
100%. That sounded great.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm not the pronunciation king that I thought I was.
Absolutely.
As Sean
same.
will absolutely. Yeah. How long did I pronounce Oyolose as Taniquetil instead of Taniquetil?
You're still doing it.
I still pronounce it like that.
Yeah, honestly.
And don't get me
Everybody in the
started on
chat's
that
going
giant
crazy,
sea
I'm
turtle
sure.
that Tolkien
Right.
came
Yeah.
up with.
Seriously.
Fastatokalon is definitely the bane of my existence now.
Oh, indeed.
Has there ever been a better travel commercial than like that series of aerial shots?
Oh, yeah.
I think,
seriously.
I mean,
honestly,
goodness.
that's still one of my favorite. That hero shot going over
Yeah.
the hill, still one of my favorites in all of movie history.
I love this small
Yes,
moment where
indeed.
Boromir's
Yeah.
training. Oh my gosh. It's such a good, connection, showing a personal connection between them for what it sets up later.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
it's all about that
definitely.
setup, isn't it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you all think about
I
the
would love to
change?
go to this actual location and visit.
Oh, yeah. What do you all think about the change film to or book to film with Gandalf wanting to go through Moria, Aragorn not wanting to?
Yeah.
And here Gandalf does not want anything to do with it. What do you think about that?
I don't know.
I think
we did talk about that a little.
We did talk about that on our show. I mean, I think it fundamentally changes the nature of what Gandalf is trying to do and leading the Fellowship. I mean,
yeah,
with him not wanting to go through Moria, it sets up that he knows something's down there and he doesn't want anything to happen.
Yeah.
But in the books, I mean, he doesn't know that there's anything down there. He thinks something's down there, right, Alan? That's what we determined.
Yeah.
But
he wouldn't be surprised if something was down there.
Yeah,
but he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't have
Right.
certainty. Yeah.
But he also feels like that's the best way to go. I don't know. I think it fundamentally changes the nature of Gandalf's sacrifice, really.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so here's a fun question from the chat for everybody. Which one would you keep? One of the 3, 7, 9, or 1 ring, a Silmaril, a Palantir, or any other treasures of Middle Earth you can think of?
Oh, that's easy. A Silmaril for sure.
Dude, you'd get killed. Somebody would kill you for that.
None of the sons of Fëanor are still around, right?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I think it would. I'm sure it would wither your unclean flesh, Alan.
Well, I didn't say I'm going to actually hold it in my hands because, God knows, I'm not going to be able to hold.
But
you'd
never need a flashlight again. I think.
No,
that's
exactly.
Power goes out. You're like,
It's also
right up
kind
here in the forehead.
of process of elimination there, really, because do I want any of the rings of power? I Do you know any of the great rings? No, I don't.
I mean, I
mean,
could
one
maybe
of
go
the
for like
three.
Vilya. You
Yeah,
know,
one of
I'd
the-
take
yeah.
Vilya.
That was my answer too. Vilya or
I don't
Narya.
know. With the One Ring destroyed, how much power do they have?
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I
Still
guess
a
that's
nice
a good
looking ring,
point. It
though.
still
They
looks
would
like-
wane.
yeah,
A nice
true.
blue ring.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good question.
I would
Wither my
definitely go for a
unclean flesh.
Palantir.
Sean?
I would take a Palantir without any
Great one.
hesitation, because there's probably more utility out of a Palantir even after the One Ring was destroyed, and you could probably get some mileage out of it.
Change.
That's the
As
best
long as
answer
there are
to
some
that
others.
question.
maybe.
I mean, if your friends have the others, then yeah, that certainly helps.
I'm not sure I could trust
Yeah.
myself with the Palantir.
Yeah.
It always shows you the truth, but in a way that messes you up. You know, you always
Yeah.
misinterpret the truth.
That's a
It
great
distorts
point.
things in a way. I remember Tom Shippey talking about that. Goodness, Sean, what was that? Was that on our show,
that
or
in-
was
is that
that
in
in
one
the
of his
discussion?
books?
I think that might
Yeah.
be in his thing about script to film. where
Oh,
he
that
talks
might
about
be.
the
Yeah.
Palantir. Yeah,
Yeah.
and how they look at it and they see a factual thing, but they misinterpret it and they plan
Right,
differently
yeah.
about it. And
Yeah.
That's right. He talked about the word speculate. And how
That's
it's
what it was.
related to,
Speculate.
yeah.
And, yeah.
Some more great shots moving
I
through
know.
the caverns here.
Yeah.
This is a bigature, one of the best, I think, one of the best
Yes.
bigature moments of photography. So clever. And
Yeah, the way it follows the rabbi.
amazing. Yeah, amazing that it follows them right into the caverns.
Yeah.
We had someone say that they would claim the greatest treasure of them all, Sam's friendship.
Oh, I like
Man.
that answer.
Yeah, if you can be
Aw.
friends with Sam, you're
Oh,
good. You're
That's
good.
true.
If that
hadn't thought
doesn't
about other
warm your
treasures, you
heart,
know,
I don't know what will. I love
wow.
that they included, Legolas walking on top of the snow is great.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
Now, if only he could fetch the sun for us.
Right?
Seriously.
I know. What's wrong with
Jeez.
you?
Go and fetch the sun. Love that.
The mastery of the weather. I mean, let's talk about the power
yeah.
of the Istari for just a moment. How cool and very specific it is demonstrated that Saruman has power over the weather. Much similar to the way that Sauron himself has some power over the weather, especially in the third film.
Yeah.
And interesting that Gandalf and Radagast just, so forget that. If you want some other wizard who's going to mess around with the rainstorms, Bilbo, you better find yourself another wizard. They don't want. It's interesting that contrast,
That's a good
don't you
point.
think?
Yeah,
Now,
interesting.
doesn't Gandalf, when they come to the doors of Durin, he does it kind of insinuate that he moves the clouds out of the way of the moon?
I can't remember that.
I guess we'll find
I
out
don't
here in a
remember
little
that
bit.
trilogy as
But I
well.
think he said mirrors starlight and moonlight,
the
and I
good-
thought
oh,
he kind of
Rosemary, yeah.
reaches up, and then the clouds move away from the moon.
Does he? Okay, wow.
We'll find out here in a few minutes because we're getting close to that.
That is an interesting question, though, Cliff. So you're saying it's the idea that Saruman is going after this power that Gandalf and Radagast are saying we don't want any part of that.
Mm-hmm. It is. I think it's an indication of really the limits of explicit power being demonstrated, and the Istari were forbidden from super explicit demonstrations of power against the enemy.
Right.
And here's Saruman willingly, very early in the trilogy, mind you, getting ready to show power beyond what he's supposed to be exerting. I never noticed it until just now that it might be a very self-aware commentary
Sort of
on the part of
an
Peter
early
Jackson.
breaking of the rules. Sort of. He's like, hey, this is a guy who's willing to violate that precept against the
And
Istari.
Gandalf doesn't even bring out explicit magic to stop him or to shield themselves against him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because at this point in the book, this is where Gandalf doesn't even want to use his magic to light a fire, right?
Right.
He doesn't want that homing beacon because he knows Saruman will detect it. And here in the movie, we see Saruman doing the exact opposite, like you said.
So do you all think it really would have taken
True,
way too long
indeed.
if they had gone the Belfalas Anfalas route?
Oh, goodness, yes.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Weeks too long. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I always love thinking about that, though. There's another road.
It's a long road trip. Yeah, no doubt.
One with full of Corsairs, but
Yeah.
What's this, Gandalf? Oh, that's the ruins of Rohan, which was recently destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. The burning hulk of Medjugorje. Yeah.
Yep.
Glad we finally got here.
Yep. I love how we all get quiet for this.
I know.
That's a good point in the chat,
Right.
Brian. That Caradhras was its own big bad in the books. No Saruman involved.
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
true.
we talked about that at length, right,
Yeah.
Sean? That was, how much of this was Saruman, and we talked about how difficult it would have been, though, cinematically. I mean, they to their credit, Jackson had to make it a little bit more personified.
Yeah.
I think it would have been really hard
that...
to personify the mountain itself. I think, but
yeah,
I get the decision. That's of all the complaints I have, that isn't one of them.
Oh,
and I say complaints, but I say it lovingly because of course
I just saw Vince in the chat.
Yeah, that they should have included the warg
of
fight.
course. In the chat, someone mentioned that the fight.
Oh,
yeah,
there
the fight with the wargs, which is to me an amazing part in the book.
Yes.
Amazing part in the book, but no, it's not in the films at all. Where the wargs are attacking them.
And then their bodies are gone in the morning, which was disturbing at a bare minimum. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. Let's conjecture if Gandalf is reading the inscription here on the west gate of Moria. What if he had spoken the words out loud in Elvish?
Yeah,
they would have instantly solved it immediately.
Yeah. Right.
Just read the manual. Just read the manual.
Yeah.
But read it out loud.
point.
And why Legolas didn't at least think of it?
Yeah.
How about some other words for friend in other languages?
At this point in the book, he was too busy arguing with Gimli, if I recall.
Right.
Yeah.
In the Ralph Bakshi film, Legolas and Gimli look at each other, and Gimli says, "Those were happier times," and that's in the book. And Bakshi is acknowledging what happened before the War of Elves and Sauron, before Celebrimbor got duped by Anatar. It's a really cool moment, but here we are. We're not watching that film, are we? So never mind.
No. But wouldn't that be a fun one to do, huh?
That would, yeah.
Never mind.
I think we'll get there.
I will say that
we need you to serve as
Bye, Bill.
You need to be
Bill.
Oh gosh!
Try to get into the mountain.
People complain about Saruman getting cut out of the theatrical, but the real dangling plot point is Bill the Pony.
What happens? Yeah, I mean,
for those of you who haven't read the books, know that Bill the Pony makes it home, guys.
He does, yeah.
That's right.
So,
and I want to even say that
thank God.
In one of the later shots of the Return of the King, Sam is writing him, but
really,
really,
I think you're right.
I think when they're riding back into the Shire and they're all nodding,
and they're all dressed up in their royal clothes.
Yeah,
I think he's on Bill.
Yeah.
Melon.
Well, it can't be that obvious now, can it, Frodo?
Oh, look at that.
I was just about to say that.
That's what I was going to say.
It's also interesting that in the books,
I love how he has a flashlight attachment for his wand. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me
got a little USB port up there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, dang it. It's USB-A and I need a USB-C.
Yeah.
Anybody have an adapter?
I love that. So the differentiation here between books and films with The Watcher, I realized while rereading I did a video just this last weekend on The Watcher in the Water, and being reminded that it actually slams the doors closed. It doesn't destroy the doorway like it does here in the films.
That's correct. But of course, it's the same thing. 6 and 1/2 does the other because they still can't get out.
Yeah.
They don't.
I saw someone in the comments of my video on The Watcher said that someone should have put a sign on the inside of the doors to warn people, say, "Don't go out this way, giant squid."
Or you'd think there would at least be like one of those little push button things that opens it again from the inside, like a refrigerator in a hotel. Or a restaurant. I guess I'm thinking of The Shining with that one. I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, what hotels are you staying at, Sean? But you got a button on the inside of your refrigerator, man.
Right, man.
You know, like the industrial. Never mind.
That is one heck of an honor bar.
Like
The ones you trap a murderous Jack Nicholson in.
I was gonna say, I knew there was ones that, like in your car trunk, there's an escape pull thing.
Is there really?
Yeah.
I've never.
I remember what year it was. But they had to
I
add
haven't
that
either,
manually.
fortunately, but I know it's there.
Yeah.
I love this where Legolas shoots it right past Boromir's head.
I know.
Just the amount of trust that Boromir already has to have.
Like the Watcher would take some serious damage in the movie version. I feel like.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost an arm. Gonna have to grow another one.
Who played Aragorn better, John Hurt or Viggo? Asks Earl from the chat. I'm pretty partial to Viggo.
I'm partial to Viggo.
I kind of am too.
Yeah.
Nothing against John Hurt. John Hurt's a fantastic actor, but
I mean, John Hurt is only damaged. His interpretation of Aragorn is damaged only by the fact that they had him wearing those.
Oh my gosh!
Those pants, or those lack of pants.
It's like a skirt.
That just made me not able to listen to him. Unfortunately,
all
Viggo
Rangers.
Really. Viggo's
all the Rangers.
I mean, I know that Sean and I have talked about our concerns about movie Aragorn versus book Aragorn in terms of, his uncertainty, his lack of, I am going to be the king sort of thing. But I'll tell you what, in terms of casting, they couldn't have done any better.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic.
So this is another interesting thing from the chat, which I didn't notice. I wasn't paying that close attention, but they said, Kate says in 4K, she saw the Watcher's tentacles have little fingers on the end.
Oh, cool.
That's creepy.
I'm going to go back and look because that's how it is described in the books.
Yeah.
So now after we're done today, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to rewind and go back, listen to me. That's not even a thing.
Be kind,
anymore.
Rewind, man. That's right.
That's
He's
my
got a couple hours of research after we're done. He's going back through all the little moments.
I was listening to the Howard Shore soundtrack on 8-track, man. It's great.
I'm not quite that old.
Click program.
I'm not that old. Oh, I do like this moment, since we're doing the extended here, the Mithril.
Just an awareness. I'm seeing some people talk about being off the timer. I've noticed when I'm watching a film with a friend in Europe that they get ahead of me pretty quickly, and it's because of the NTSC versus PAL difference. So if you are not in the US, then you're probably going to have to
could be a frame,
pause every now and then. Yeah, it has to do with the frames per second rate, refresh rate on the. So.
That's intriguing. I would not have known.
I know. I would have known
after we moved away from magnetic.
I know. I would have thought.
Right. I mean, after we moved from magnetic videotape,
digital, right? Yeah.
And we get
that's what you think. Yeah, really.
We were watching
does that same
and
the streaming question is next. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a streaming question. I don't know whether it would be the same way on an MP4. But yeah.
So Matt, we're not there yet, but you had a tweet that went viral about Gimli's axe in the Chamber of Mazarbul.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it went viral, but
I honestly saw it like everywhere on Facebook too. It was like
really?
that somebody screenshot and just it was shared everywhere. It was funny.
Cool.
Yeah.
So apparently, when we get to the Chamber of Mazarbul, we see the double-bladed axe that Gimli uses throughout the movies. He's not carrying it at this point in the films, and we only see it after they're in the Chamber of Mazarbul. The behind the scenes thing there is that he actually picks it up in the chamber.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, and you can see it. There's the wide shot as they are walking in the chamber. It's down in the bottom right, leaning up against some rocks. And here we have our glimpse of Gollum that kind of looks a little different than what we see him.
Yeah, he does look a bit different from what we see
later. This was the pure CG version. This wasn't.
Was it not mocapped at all?
I don't believe this was mocapped.
Yeah,
there's original one. Yeah,
he looks a little bit more
Gollum like 1.0.
Like.
Yeah, very much Gollum 1.0, no doubt.
Not quite like the Rankin Bass frog monster, but he's got a little bit of that going on.
Thank God. Yeah. Oh, love that line.
Once everybody gets quiet.
Yeah, it's such a good scene. This is the scene that they used for Ian McKellen's Oscar nomination clip.
Yeah,
that's true. And they also made a beautiful poster, a special poster that New Line released that has this dialogue recreated in block letters over Gandalf and Frodo.
That's amazing.
That's nice.
And it works so well in this moment too, because it's in the books. This comes back when they're at Bag End.
Yeah,
much earlier.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. This is all in the Shadow of the Past chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys? Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you lament the fact that there were less songs in the movies like there were in the books? Right. I'm very partial to the song of Durin's Awakening that Gimli sings.
Oh yeah.
I wish we'd gotten some version of that.
It would have been great to see more music, and I do love that we got in the extended. We got Aragorn singing a little bit of the Lay of Beren and Luthien.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, Aragorn singing at his coronation, but and the hobbits sing it in the bar. But yeah, there could have been more.
Yeah,
I would have loved that.
It would have been nice to see a lot more, but I guess I
nose.
understand why
It
they took a
always
lot of
knows.
it out because
We
I
missed
mean
the
it's
opportunity, Sean. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it, Alan. No, I was just saying, like I would say it's like I think
Too
to a lot of
bad,
mainstream viewers, I think would probably just
Sure.
would be a little bit turned off by that. Maybe.
Yeah, that's very true. That's
Yeah,
very
don't want it
true.
to turn into a musical. But yeah, the idea of Toucan Sam, by the way, follow your nose. It always knows, Pippin. That's all I could think of with that line.
Oh, and this reminds me of from the new deluxe edition of the 4K where you see the canned footage and Gimli delivers the line. He says, "It is a marvel" during this, which is kind of cool to see, like unreleased dialogue.
That's awesome.
But yeah, this
Won't
is
be
another
unreleased for long.
jaw-dropping
I'm
moment.
sure Jackson will find a way to get that out, maybe in the 25th anniversary edition.
I
or
hope
something.
so. It's what I've dubbed, what my viewers here will
this
know as the
music.
Mithril edition is what I call it.
Nice.
where
Yeah.
we get all the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's
here we go.
what
So
we've been calling the
this shot-
Unicorn Edition for
Yes.
ages.
Yes.
Jasmine, yes. Eowyn's funeral song. That's another one, and I love that it's in Old English. It's fantastic.
All right, so it's coming up here. You'll see his axe in the bottom right corner.
Yeah, there it is.
So,
Whoa.
yep,
I'm behind.
bottom right.
Or maybe
There
I'm
it
ahead.
is.
My
Yeah.
bad.
I see it. I saw it. I saw
Yeah.
it on the right-hand side. I saw it. Yeah.
There it is.
Balin, son of Fundin.
Now, I want to say, too, that I believe when Balin is introduced in the Hobbit film, the music from either this scene or the previous scene with Dwarfdolf was that theme was used again, right, when he shows up to Bag End. Balin,
Really?
at your service.
that's
yeah. Something to listen to
that's
the next time
cool.
you watch it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Riley,
Troy did
I'm
an
gonna
amazing
do
job
that.
with putting the themes in different spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wow,
faint,
I'm-
but you can kind of hear it. It's just this Moria, a bit of Moria music
That's
with
so
him.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Really?
I
Wow.
believe so. I believe so.
So here's a great question from the chat. What's your favorite scene from Fellowship of the Ring?
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, Patrick,
that's hard.
what a
That's
Sophie's
really hard.
choice. What a Sophie's choice. I don't even know.
I would have gone with
Um,
you to the end, to the very fires of Mordor.
Mm,
That one is probably one of my favorites.
It's up there.
yeah,
Galadriel giving the gifts.
Yes.
yeah.
Is right up there.
Just the hero shot as they're going over the mountain. That's
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Classic. Oh, that's
Chills.
And that's
every
where the
time.
music transitions too, because I remember
Yeah.
we talked about this too. The transition from the Hobbity theme to the Fellowship theme and the full blown, the horns and the whole 9 yards, and it's just this. You get chills every time.
Oh, Pippin.
Do you know what? I would say my favorite in the whole film might be the I guess it might be the prologue. The prologue just blows me away every single
Yeah.
time. I love
Prologue,
it. I love the
yeah.
prologue so much.
That's a great. That's
And I remember
fantastically
watching the
done.
prologue for the first time in the theater and thinking to myself, "Oh, this is going to be good." Like,
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, having known these books for probably, I think it was about 20 years at that. No, sorry, not 20, 10 years. My gosh.
Yeah.
That's where the time
You're
goes.
not that old yet,
No.
Sean.
Yeah, 91 was the first time I read it. So yes.
Yeah.
And
Before I was
like
even
thinking, like,
alive.
oh man, now I feel old.
Get out. Get.
No, yeah, I'm just too young.
Yeah. Jeez, Yoystan,
All
man.
right. We'll let you live. Yeah. Favorite scene? That's a tough one.
Boromir looks really scared. Like Boromir's like, oh my gosh, what is going on?
like,
rightly terrified.
crap.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh.
He
He
is.
pulls Gordon Sumner out of his sheath, and he's glowing.
It's
blue.
like Egon with the PKE meter in every Ghostbusters movie.
Yes.
Like, you know, when you see it
Well,
light up.
now.
Do you know, it's the phrase, the desperate tone in his voice, and that phrase, they have a cave troll, is iconic now. It is just iconic.
Yeah, it really is. It's sort of that resignation, like, well, of course they have a cave troll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Things aren't bad enough. Yeah. They got a cave troll.
You know, I've heard that Amazon Studios can call their creature an ice troll because they cannot legally use the licensed term cave troll. That's what I heard.
Really?
But
Interesting.
we'll see about that.
Huh.
Yes.
That's odd. So is it the phrase cave troll used in the film or in the books?
That's the thing. I don't think that it is, and I think that might be why they can't use it.
Oh, that would make sense.
But they could just
Because
use
it's
troll.
strictly
right?
a film thing. I may be wrong though.
Troll. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't remember they call it a cave troll. I can do a quick electronic word search real quick.
There you go.
I should probably keep my
We've
book.
been
Journey in the Dark.
I've been doing a fair number of Googling, fair amount of Googling tonight.
Yeah, it's in there. Cave-troll.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
in,
you're right.
There it is.
And that's
Yep,
exactly
there it is.
And speaking of,
There we go.
There he is.
Hey, Cavey.
I loved you in Batman versus Superman.
that's brilliant.
Great.
Oh my gosh, really? Oh, I love that. That's funny. Well, always remember, kids, that when the world, when I mean the world, I mean the world of journalists, the entertainment movie journalists. The very first time that they saw The Lord of the Rings, it was that footage at the Cannes Film Festival, and they were so excited by watching this clip that we're watching now, leading up to a very brief appearance of the Balrog before it cut to black. I mean, it was enough to set all the reporters in the world on literal fire, and it became the advanced buzz that New Line Cinema needed. And at the OneRing.net, our editor-in-chief, Chris, he was carted all the way over there to France to see it in person. It was just wild at the time. It was an intriguing piece of pre-release marketing, really.
Yeah.
To show this sequence.
Wow.
Best weapon in Lord of the Rings.
What a sequence to use, too. I mean,
Yeah.
Sam's pan.
I love Sam's pan.
Yeah, and I know I've mentioned a couple times that was on the new 4K edition that they released, and that was something I intentionally, when I went to watch that, I tried as best I could to put myself in the mindset of like, okay, imagine I haven't seen Lord of the Rings at all, know nothing about this, and then see this footage, back 20 years ago, and you think of all the epic movies that have come after and how groundbreaking this was. And to see this, and it's like, this isn't even the climax of the film. This is just one action sequence and part of the world building that happens in this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the fortune to rewatch the movies this year with a friend who had never seen The Lord of the Rings. Maybe a couple scenes.
Oh, that's a blessing.
It's so much fun.
That's fun.
With the the moment that stood out to me in particular, they were going up to Shelob's lair, and she said, "Oh, nobody's gonna die though, right?" And I just like, I don't know, keep watching. And then Frodo gets stung, and I'm like, I told you, like, you know, made her believe Frodo died for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys make of the change?
Wow.
You know, because in the films, it's the troll, and there's this very almost intense, you know, focus that the troll has on Frodo, almost like the troll is drawn to the ring. In the books, it's an orc chieftain that you know, runs the spear through him. What do you think of that change? It was a small one, but I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I guess the question is,
they just wanted to go bigger, right? The cinematic, the rule of show don't tell kind of thing. So they were just like, why not make it a troll?
Yeah,
make it the scariest thing in the room. I mean, if it's going to be a threat to Frodo's life, let's make it the scariest thing.
Easier, I would imagine, to tell the difference between a troll and an orc than an orc and an orc chieftain.
Well, that's probably
certainly at this point where we haven't really seen that many orcs yet.
Yeah,
that's true. These are very much the Moria goblins. They're trying to distinguish them from what we'll find later with the Uruk-hai, and
I love that unicorn edition.
Yes, I'm
sorry. You call it the Mithril edition.
Yes, you can just real quick. I'll say.
Go ahead, Matt. You go ahead.
Arrow sticking out of the troll's head. There, I just love that aspect. That was something I hadn't really noticed until 4K. Was the arrow goes through its mouth and you can see it sticking out of the top of his head. Okay, go ahead, Cliff. Mithril edition, yes.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. You know, I never saw that detail in 4K yet, but I'm going to be looking for that. You know, there were a lot of teaser trailers that came out for Fellowship of the Ring, and a couple of them that were internet only featured daylight Moria orcs that had come out of the mountain in the daylight chasing down the Fellowship as they were headed down towards Lothlorien. And if we do ever see that Mithril edition or that Unicorn edition with all the cut scenes and the bloopers, all the stuff that was shot and never used, we might actually see more up close the armor and the prosthetics of those Moria orcs if those scenes are ever revealed, ever.
That would be
because they're full daylight scenes with those prosthetic orcs. I'm looking forward to that someday when it happens.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see it all. I want to see
I
want to see the Arwen fighting at Helm's Deep.
Eomer in the Forest of the Druidine.
Yes.
Whatever that was.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever that was with the spear. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Give it all to
absolutely.
me. If Peter wants to make a more extended version of the film, I'm all for that. If just giving us the footage, I don't care. Just give it to me in whatever form.
Earlier in the chat, somebody said, "Why did they give my boy Gil-galad only 1.5 seconds?" And I'm telling you, that Unicorn edition will have more shots of Gil-galad and other things that we've been missing for all these years. So
it would be great to see an extended prologue.
Yeah,
it with more Gil-galad.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some Anarian in there.
Oh yes,
alas, poor Anarian.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
I'd
Well,
like to
they
see an
did change the
entirely
Argonath.
Change the Argonath.
That's right. They changed him to Isildur and Elendil.
Elendil.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
yeah.
Instead of Isildur and Anarian. Yeah.
You know, I never knew that. Actually, that makes sense. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love. You know, they don't have Legolas's line from the books where he screams that it's a Balrog, but the look on his face when Gandalf says it's a Balrog and Legolas just looks like, oh dear Lord.
Yeah. Legolas has a cut. They cut to him, and you can tell by the look. Orlando Bloom is bringing it.
There's a good
He's bringing it.
Here. Yeah.
He knows.
I've never noticed that.
He knows.
That's interesting.
Same.
He's been told the stories.
And it makes me wonder, how little does Gimli know about the misadventure and the tragedy that happened to Balin and everybody else who tried to reclaim Moria? And evidently, Gimli knows nothing at all about what happened.
I think just what they've just read in the book just a few minutes ago. I mean, I think that's really it.
Well, this is an interesting hypothetical here. If Christopher and Ian's roles were swapped, what do you think their performances would be like? That's interesting. I don't even know.
Christopher Lee can do just about anything, but it is hard to see the warmth that Ian McKellen gave to Gandalf coming from Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm mistaken, or I could be mistaken, but didn't Christopher Lee get Tolkien's blessing?
Yes.
To play Gandalf if they ever did make that adaptation, or am I?
No, I think that was just an urban
was that
legend.
a rumor?
He did meet him.
Oh, okay.
He did meet
they
him,
did
but
meet
it
in a
was
pub or something.
as a college student. He met him in a pub, but it was more like a very brief hello. That's
okay.
But he is the only one to have ever met Tolkien.
That's
so it is
amazing.
an urban legend then.
Urban legend. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, they did meet, but ever so briefly, and it was very. I guess Tolkien was rather curt because, of course, there he is in The Bird and the Baby, sitting there chatting with some of his fellow Inklings.
Some college student walks up to him with a beer in his hand, like, "I love your books, man."
Yeah.
I'm sure that's exactly how
pretty close to
it. That's how I would be if it was me.
At that point, in 1957, Professor Tolkien had a very different attitude about his fans than he did in 1968.
Yeah. Very much so.
Really different. Very different world, So.
And
wow.
So since we just got to this moment where Gimli yells, "Not the beard," I actually recently had John Rhys-Davies on the channel, and he said that was ad-libbed. He started acting like he was falling, and Orlando Bloom instinctively reached out and just grabbed him and happened to grab him by the beard, and he grabbed
great.
John grabs Legolas's arm and says, "Not the beard," because in his mind he's thinking that's an hour and a half of prosthetics. If you pull that off, I have to go back into
that thing off, man.
Oh, that's great.
That's amazing.
That's brilliant.
That is.
It is brilliant.
So we got a question from the chat. Can you confirm that in the book Saruman never really joins with Sauron? He's looking for the One Ring for himself, building an army to oppose Sauron. He also asked Gandalf to join him in opposing Sauron and rule Middle Earth together. Well, he certainly is looking.
Yeah.
He's
looking
both sides.
He's definitely working with Sauron.
Yeah.
He's taking orders from Sauron. He's not following them. He's taking them.
As we say where I grew up, he was talking out of both sides of his mouth, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So when they cross the bridge here, something I noticed the other day, watch Aragorn, and maybe it's the 4K edition brought this out. The CGI here, it is kind of odd when Aragorn reaches the other side of the bridge.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out.
It looks really PS2 graphics.
Count the polygons,
like a cutscene. PS2
cutscene. I'm looking now. It looks pretty smooth to me.
The idea of that
when he waves the hobbits over, it's it feels a little blocky. It's interesting.
It must be something in the 4K. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is just spellbinding cinema.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we suddenly got quiet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Bridge of Khazad-dûm.
And there's a winged Balrog.
I was about to say, Matt.
I wasn't going to comment.
I know, because we're just going to be stuck on that.
We'll be here for the next 20 minutes.
No, that was. I recently
all the
posted,
passages. Because right up until that moment, they did a good job of making it look like the wings were sort of metaphorical shadow wings.
Right, yeah.
And then they actually put physical. No.
I jokingly posted a meme that I made that was like a security check-in for a website. It says select all boxes with a Balrog, and I selected all the ones except for the ones with the wings.
Was that yours?
And
I saw that. That was great.
Yeah,
I love that.
Brilliant.
I got so many people coming after me like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "It's a joke. Calm down."
It's brilliant though.
I'm like,
I love that. Somebody else shared
they don't
it.
have them, but it's okay. You can think that. That's fine.
Oh,
I'm not coming after you.
Oh my goodness. The necessary sacrifice. Again, PJ is aware of Tolkien's interest in metaphysics, and the audience needs to believe that Gandalf is gone. PJ knows that he's got a whole nother year before the next theatrical film. And he knows that there's tons and tons of people who have not read the books. And he needs to make this as convincing and as real as possible. But at the end of this movie, when Frodo is standing there staring at the river, and you see the ghost of Gandalf appear, and we hear the familiar words of Gandalf again, reminding Frodo of what we have to do with the time that is given to us, that is when they were just giving the Oscar to Ian McKellen. It's like, Ian McKellen's ghost is floating in the sky. Give him the bloody Oscar. Give it to him. And I'm still upset that he lost the Oscar. I'm still upset. And I'm also upset that I have to depart the pattern. You wonderful, wonderful people who are here. I was not able to stay for the full broadcast. And now that we're at the moment of most significant cataclysm, I must say it's time for me to go to Scum and Villainy Cantina and cause some cataclysm of my own working at the cantina tonight. And thank you to everybody in the community.
At the same time, man.
Yes,
I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm sorry.
It was good to see you, Cliff.
Good talking to you, buddy.
I will give you a moment. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being part of our community. And I'm going to give you a moment for pity's sake. So that's what I'm going to do. This was really exciting. Thank you, Matt, Yoystan, Sean, Alan, everybody, and to the whole community of ringers out there. I love you. Thank you for 20 years of amazing experiences and much, much more to come. It is legacy being with Tolkien fans, and it always gets better. It always gets better as we go forward. I love your energy, everybody. Thank you again. I'll see you guys very soon.
Thank you.
Clifford, thank you so much for joining us. For those, I'm sure you all here watching know already, but if you don't, Clifford, you can find his work on theonering.net, and they do their weekly Torn Tuesday streams where they cover all kinds of news and exciting things there. So be sure to check him out. He's been doing this for a long time. He's someone that I greatly admire and look up to in the community here. And I'm sure that Clifford will come back in whenever we do the Two Towers stream, maybe next year for the 20th of that. Clifford will come back as Clifford the White, I guess.
Clifford the White.
I'm there. Oh God, yeah. I'll change clothes. I'll do it.
We'll see you in a few months.
Yes, we'll see you very soon.
Yes.
All right.
Sure.
You take care.
Can't wait for that. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right.
And then of course we have Gimli here with the speaking loud enough.
Was a spoiler, but I mean, anybody who was at the panels knows that Cliff's going to be on the show sometime this year, and I figure it's all right to share that.
I think it's fine.
So,
yeah, builds anticipation.
That's right.
What's the line in the book there? Gimli says something about his ears being made of wood.
Made of wood, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's
this guy
a great bit of behind the scenes trivia with the Neo Khuzdul that they used. Gimli's phrase here is very similar to the phrase that Thorin uses to Thranduil in Desolation of Smaug, which, if I recall, one of them is something about like defecating. I don't know. I'm gonna look.
I wonder if it's like
Sounds
the Black
Swedish
Speech thing, Sean, about to the cesspool or something.
Filth.
Yeah.
Gronk. Yeah.
Gronk. That's
Look at those lamps and everything. I mean, the 4K really just puts a.
Oh yeah.
I'm jealous of you guys with the 4K. I'm sitting here.
Well, I'm not currently watching it in 4K, Sean. I mean, I'm sitting here, on a computer monitor with a tiny window. But
so I'm ashamed to admit this, but maybe Tolkien would appreciate it. I haven't stepped into the 4K world yet. So. Yeah.
Well, okay, so I looked it up. So Gimli's insult when they constructed it is to mean "I spit upon your grave."
Oh, no, love it.
So there you go. Which, I mean, for an elf who's not supposed to die, that's even
That's a good
It's
point.
almost
That would be like
threat.
adding insult to injury.
Yeah.
Like he's
Right.
already died when he's not supposed to. Now there's a dwarf spitting on his grave.
Poor Haldir. I mean, Helm's Deep. Ugh.
Oh, Haldir.
You know, that's something.
If you
I
just
was
stayed
gonna
in
say.
Lothlorien like you did in the books, you'd
Right.
still
Yeah,
be alive.
exactly.
But think about what that performance has done for Haldir, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he turned him from just like a one appearance character into
Oh yeah.
this beloved icon.
Yeah, it's strange, like getting requests to do a lore video on Haldir in the books. I'm like, it'll be like 30 seconds long.
Yeah, it's not gonna be very much.
Yeah.
Here he is, and that's it. And then
I
later on,
remember,
Sam can't tell if it was him or somebody else who told him about the rope.
That's right. Some elf.
It's
told
like
me about this.
Haldir or one of those folks.
Must have been
told me about
Haldir,
this
but it
rope.
wasn't Haldir. Yeah.
I don't know.
It was just
I can't
some,
tell the difference between
random
them.
elf guy number 3.
Right. This shot, though.
I know.
yeah.
Oh, and the set. I mean, the design of this was just fantastic.
I mean, let me
Yeah,
ask: does anybody
virtuous.
regret that they didn't just do like the basic rope ladders that were in the book?
No.
Like, can we?
I have
No.
zero
I was gonna
regrets
say,
about that.
Like, this is definitely
incredible.
worth seeing.
Yeah.
This amazing staircase and all these lights.
Craig Parker was pretty cool. He ended up coming to, I think, just about all of the OneRing.net Oscar parties. He was very chill.
He was at the one that I was at, although
Yeah.
I didn't talk to him. He was mobbed.
So I
And
had
he
not
was.
heard this before. Angel in the chat says Craig Parker voiced Gothmog.
Really interesting.
that's
I think
awesome.
maybe.
I didn't know that.
Actually, are you sure? I think that was Lawrence. I think that was
Laura,
Makoare. I
Oh,
don't know how
no,
to pronounce
okay.
his last name. But maybe I don't know. Maybe it was both of them. Maybe he played
Well,
the physical and Parker
it's
did the
set,
voice.
so yeah, what I'm finding online here is confirming that Craig Parker
Okay.
Yeah.
was the
Did
voice.
the voicing.
Tolkien Gateway has that. Yep.
Yeah,
Interesting.
sure enough. That's cool.
I had no idea.
Thanks,
I
Angel.
thought it
Appreciate
was Lauren. I always I have never I've only ever read his name, Lawrence
Is it Makoare?
Makoare. I
Makoare?
think it's
Okay.
Makoare.
Yeah, so I've never known how to pronounce it, but so now I know. Thank you.
Well, no, we're guessing.
Oh, you're guessing.
Yeah.
I should make it very clear. Sean and I are
We're
just guessing.
speculating.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
speculating is a
light-
fancier word for guessing. I like that better, actually.
The light
That's
of
the word.
Valinor in Galadriel's eyes.
Yes,
Mm.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Little,
Yes.
little things.
Yeah.
it is
That's
fantastic.
what like
isn't it?
what we were saying earlier, like the little details,
Mhm.
like the inscriptions. Alan and Sean, before you guys got here, we were talking about the inscriptions on
Grond,
Arwen's sword.
oh,
yeah, and Grond,
Mm.
but Arwen's sword was what brought it up, and it says on there that it belonged to Idril,
Mm, yeah,
Okay.
daughter of the king of Gondolin. Is
yeah,
like what,
Tuor's
yeah.
daughter, right?
yeah, what the inscriptions say on Arwen's sword, which is awesome.
Or Tuor's. I'm sorry, Tuor's
Tuor's
wife.
Wife,
I was
yes.
thinking of.
It's like we're not
Torgon,
the
sorry.
children of Hurin here.
no,
Yeah.
no, wrong. I knew what I meant. I just didn't
Yeah.
say what I. Yeah. Oh, Boromir can't stand looking at it.
Can't,
I'm Celeborn. I'm mostly irrelevant, but I will say some things that are vaguely
I'll-
important.
yeah, he gets a lot more lines in the books for sure.
Yeah, he does.
He's still just arm candy, though. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Galadriel's all. I
Galadriel
mean,
stopped short. She
we-
stopped short of having an actual moment where she says, "Okay, honey, you've said enough.
she pretty much does. Yeah, you're right.
Let me talk. Let's let the ring bearers talk, okay?"
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's always an interesting moment when Galadriel says the wisest of the elves, Celeborn, in that scene, and I'm like,
Mm.
no, he's
You
not.
can almost hear her rolling her eyes
Yeah.
from here. when she
Wisest
says
of the elves, sure.
the
Yeah.
wisest
Okay.
of the elves.
Yeah.
Wink,
like
wink, nudge, nudge.
Círdan still exists, you know.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think of the kind of the telepathic aspect of these films? Obviously, we see it later with Elrond and Galadriel long
Yeah.
distance. but
Osanwe.
Yeah.
Osanwe. Yes.
How do you
know,
feel
that's very
that-
much a thing.
how do you feel that was executed? I guess is my question.
About as well as it could. What do you think?
Yeah.
Sean?
No, I thought it was fine. I mean, yeah, I guess shades of David Lynch's Dune with the whispered voiceover, but I mean, it worked a lot better.
Yeah,
But I mean, because
that's a good point.
it's I think it's really well conveyed that the whisper is being heard by another character. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I thought it worked
Yeah.
just fine.
And I like it. I mean, if you wanted to like go in really deep and throw a theory at it, I suppose, she exists as a high elf in the unseen realm, and perhaps that's how she's communicating to them. Like, it's really interesting.
I mean, Tolkien actually wrote about, he wrote a whole essay on telepathy and, the fact that elves can do it, particularly very powerful elves.
Yeah. I mean, we see it with the White Council in Aragian when they pass through the Return of the King.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's another good question from the chat. Why doesn't Sam get to look in the mirror in the film? He literally goes before Frodo in the book.
Yeah.
Good question.
Time, maybe?
I think just, you've got a third character that's another focal point that has to take part in the conversation. You make it a lot more of a, I guess, intimate moment between Galadriel and
between the ring bearers.
Frodo. You get more that sense that Frodo's alone, the loneliness of being the sole ring bearer.
That
would be
they do manage to get some of Sam's vision in the mirror into Frodo's.
Right.
So we still get that content, but it's just a matter of focus, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Just don't, it's already a complicated and long enough movie. Try to cut what you can, I guess. I like that
perfectly
thought,
been fine with a 5-hour
movie, but
Yeah. I like that thought though, Matt, about the fact that, it highlights the fact that the ring bearers are alone. I mean, doesn't Galadriel say something like that? To be a ring bearer.
Yes.
Is to be alone.
Be alone. Yeah.
Got another fun comment here. How cool is it? Galadriel gave Gimli 3 hairs when she wouldn't give Uncle Feanor any.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yep, that's great.
That's what makes that gift such an amazing gift. It's another one of those textual ruins, really. When you come across it in Lord of the Rings, it doesn't mean anything unless you already know that. But
Feanor just has a long sigh in the halls of Mandos.
He's watching from the halls of Mandos, like, really?
Yeah, come on.
Seriously.
I do love the look. We'll see it here in a little bit, obviously, when they get in the boats and Gimli says she gave me 3 and Legolas just kind of has that smile, smirk on his face, like he knows that there's significance there. And even though we the casual audience wouldn't, but you get a sense that Legolas knows there's something there.
Yeah.
Do you think for even a split second, Galadriel thought to herself, like, why does everybody want my hair? I mean, I know it's been thousands of years, but still.
So with that Boromir Aragorn scene, gentlemen, what do you think? As you get older and everything, does Boromir become a more likable character?
I don't get older. I'm sorry. I reject the basis of the question.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I think I've come to really defend Boromir. Not every one of his actions, of course, but one of the things I'm sort of known for apparently is my rather lengthy essay on Boromir's redemption. And I don't know that before the films, I would have thought that. I hadn't gone as in depth as I did, obviously, for the podcast. And as we started to think through that and the realization that, Boromir, I don't know. I mean, what he ends up doing is, I'm sorry, I'm kind of running out of words for the moment. Sean, fill in for me. That's your job. Normally I say edit, and Jordan just closes the gap for me.
I mean, I'll say this. I think as I get older, I feel sorry for Boromir. I really, in almost a fatherly way.
I will say, I
feel like Boromir needs a good father figure in his life. Honestly,
he does.
That's a good point.
Well, Denethor's not.
I think you get a sense. I think especially the extended versions of Two Towers and Return of the King, in retrospect, kind of help with how you see Boromir.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because you see, the pressure that he's put under by Denethor, and you see how, where he's coming from as a character, and you just get that sense that he's got the weight of his kingdom on his shoulders. And but in this film, on its surface, I actually, when I first saw this Fellowship of the Ring, and when my mind was open that there was extended editions, because I didn't know this, I went to my hometown, watched it with some friends, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's Boromir. He's the bad guy, or he's one of the bad guys." And they're like, "What?" And I got like crucified on the spot because I said Boromir was a bad guy, and then they I saw the extended version and they like went into some explanation. Like, do you know what he's dealing with right now? Like, so I knew better from that moment on. I was like, okay, no, Boromir. Okay.
I mean, honestly,
I have
like
sympathy
that scene,
for you.
And Matt, that scene from Two Towers with him and Faramir and Osgiliath.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh,
that
of
is
course.
Fantastic.
That
scene.
does so much to redeem
So much.
Boromir as a character in the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we all get quiet for like a really intense moment.
Yeah.
It's like, I like how she sideways
great
looks at
side
him
eye.
instead
Yeah,
of- yeah.
I know.
Kate Blanchett side eye.
That's the look Celeborn gets a lot.
There's the David Lynch voiceover.
Yeah. It's funny because I have the volume turned down so much so I can hear the chat and everything. There's stuff that it's really easy for me to tune out the movie right now. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of not moving of mouths going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about this reveal that movie Galadriel gives to Frodo, the one that says he's going to try to take the ring, of whom I speak.
Yeah.
I felt a little on the nose. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't think it
Seemed
was
like she shouldn't
necessary.
Yeah.
We've already seen it. We've already seen the way Boromir looks at the ring. We saw the moment on the mountain when he picks it up out of the snow and Aragorn's like, give that back. I don't know that we needed that. It just
I
felt
think you're
to me
right.
like,
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that really pushes Boromir into bad guy category in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, so good.
And my Geiger counter is going off the charts, man.
Like,
It is good. And I know we said on our show several times, Alan, that, it's very different from what's in the books, but I do still love it in the movie.
it's effective by
It
golly.
is
It is
effective. No, I agree. It's effective.
cinematic.
Yeah, the show don't tell. You got to go all in.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, well, I won't get into too much Hobbit stuff. I was going to bring up like her appearing like this greenish hue in the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that was a good representation of what her unleashing her power should have looked like. Because like this is like a more vision of like what she would be like if she turned evil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I did see in my group Discord, they're sharing some 4K screenshots about like details that you would have never seen. And they showed some of the intricate design on Galadriel's pitcher that she pours the water with. Yeah. And like, we've been talking through this a lot. Yoystan and Cliff, I think, was also watching on 4K, and like, it's amazing the little details that you pick up.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, the sweat on the actors.
Oh, yes.
Faces.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yes, who was it?
All right, I guess I got to buy a new TV.
We saw sweat on the. It was Bilbo, wasn't it? We saw when he was
it
giving
was Bilbo.
his departing speech. Yeah,
and that's the
Talk
strange
about sweat on faces right there.
Boy, we're not kidding.
That's the strange thing, Sean. Is I'm actually watching this on my my desktop, and this is the iTunes version of the 4K. It's not actually the 4K player, and it still was upgraded. The iTunes version. It's still not as good as the 4K player, but
no.
It's still amazing.
During the 7th, yes, just about every male in Tolkien married up. But especially Celeborn. There was another one I wanted to, and yes, Isildur definitely got done the dirtiest movie-wise, man.
Oh,
he was headed back to give the ring to Galadriel or Elrond because he knew he shouldn't be holding on to this anymore. So
All right, Justin, I'm taking note of that. OLED.
Give me these poorly designed swords. This is where we need.
Why don't they have a point, though? Can we talk about this? Like, isn't the point of a sword to be able to slash and
what's his name from
Yeah.
a collection of unmitigated pedantry? I can't remember his name.
Brett Devereaux. Yeah,
Brett Devereaux. We need to give him a plug. Oh
Yeah.
man, yeah.
But Sean, they look so cool though.
Oh,
with
they
the
do.
little
No, they do look cool.
And they go chop. They chop.
and they go chop.
And it's a very cool interpretation of a scimitar. You know, Tolkien often says the orcs have scimitars, right? So I guess that's a cool but
the curved
yeah,
blades.
man, come on, give me a point. I mean,
Yeah.
It's like if you want to stab, you have to turn it around and hit him with the other side. It's got the little
Right.
pike
It's
thing on it.
terrible. I do love that we get a little nod to the swan ships there.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Maurier scene.
Preferably
is,
swan
of
ships
course,
that are
all
not on
extended.
fire, by the way. I would just point that out. Those are the best kind of swan ships, the ones that don't
Absolutely.
burn.
I think Finkelfin would agree with that.
Yeah. uh, Feanor was asked, how many members of the Fellowship go on how many boats down the Anduin? And his answer was, Sean?
None and none.
None and none. There you go.
I love Mary picking his teeth there. That's kind of
Aaron says in the chat says that their swords are shaped like that so they can stab around corners.
Brilliant. Oh man, I love it. I love it.
Oh man, that's so good.
It would be great if Aragorn would just say to Celeborn, "Okay, but what does your wife think?"
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It sounds like good
man.
advice, but have you checked with Galadriel?
Have we gone through that filter first?
Oh man, I do love it.
Yeah, we do get a lot more Celeborn. Like that just doubled his screen time right there. His
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, I kid because I hope it's funny, but I mean, like Celeborn and Galadriel are a great power couple.
They are.
Oh,
They're
for sure.
the Middle Earth
Something
power
there.
couple. Yeah,
For him to be called the wisest, I mean, there is
Yeah.
something there.
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really is.
And I mean, he's, that's another, we're focusing on the films here today, but we've mentioned in passing, elements that we might see in the Amazon show, and Celeborn
Yeah.
and Galadriel,
Yeah.
like you said, power couple, Galadriel obviously gets a ring and a ring of power, and Celeborn takes part in the fight in
War.
Eregion with
Mhm. Yeah.
against Sauron. I mean,
It would be great to see some of the stuff in Unfinished Tales.
Oh,
There's like the
Absolutely.
3 or 4 different competing versions, but it would be
Right.
great to see them pick one and just run with it. That would be cool to
She
see.
just gave Sam a rope. I love that. And
oh
we're
yeah,
coming up to one of the coolest gift scenes that it's one of those things again, where if you know the story behind it, it's even more powerful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When she gives the Elisar to Aragorn.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
If you've read the history of Galadriel and Celeborn and
Mhm.
you understand the history of that stone, but then if you've also read in the history of Middle Earth, the bit about how the mother of the bride gives
Mhm.
the groom a gift.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
And of course, Arwen's mom is not around anymore, having been poisoned by orcs and left. So Galadriel gives him that gift.
Yeah.
Right.
So it is just a spectacular thing. And
Yeah.
that moment is fantastic.
Yeah, there's so many connections like between Galadriel and Aragorn. Obviously you have that. You have the fact that Aragorn and Arwen were, essentially engaged in
Yeah.
Lothlorien, and
Right.
Aragorn, of course, wears the ring of Barahir, which was
It's her
once
brother's.
the ring. Yeah, her
In Rod's
brother's ring.
That's right.
Right.
Oh, so much.
That's what I love about one of the many things I love about Tolkien is like if you pick a random thing, a character or a background character or an artifact or something, and say, I wonder if there's a history behind that.
Yeah.
Chances are the answer is yes.
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is.
And you know what? I've actually told people, and people have trouble, I'm not sure if I can make it through the Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, or whatever. I've told people that before. Like, pick one thing that you're really excited about from Lord of the Rings and just dive into those books and find that. Just what?
That
Let me
thing.
find out
Yeah.
everything I can about Galadriel or the Ring of Barahir. And
That's a great.
It-
That's a great way to
it
do
can be
that.
it can be kind of like a grounding rod to get
Yeah.
you through.
Mhm.
Like that thing. Tell me
Like
tell
that
me
thing.
everything you can
Right,
about
exactly.
The light of
that vial. What's in that
Arendelle.
vial?
And who's this Arendelle fellow?
Who's this
Yeah.
Arendelle guy?
It'll quickly go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Seriously, a very, very long
Don't get
rabbit
me
hole. And then,
Yeah.
we talked earlier about what would we take, the Silmaril or the Palantir or a Ring of Power? I mean,
Yeah.
the light of a
Take the,
Silmaril.
take the
That's
file.
pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing stuff. Everything ties in.
Keller Brimbor says, how about the history of that random fox that never found out more about what the hobbits were up to?
That fox, man.
There's a secret
need a
history
whole
there
book.
somewhere.
I love that. Sean, I gotta point this out. We were talking the other day answering a question from Bartleman's bag about what would happen if various creatures or various characters got hold of the One Ring. And we were going through it, and eventually we got into what about animals or creatures rather than people, like what if Sheila had gotten hold of it. And then somehow the idea came up with the fox. What if the sentient fox got hold of the One Ring? And we realized that he would just say, what would that fox say? Whatever the heck he wanted to say.
He wanted to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was terrible.
That was terrible.
Our
true
bag
Lord of the
section
Rings.
Yeah, the true Lord of the Rings, and the pan up to the dramatic. You see the little feet planted on the ground, and the fox just stares at the camera.
Yeah.
Jasmine says, build the pony with the One Ring. Actually,
I love that.
Yoystan did a video on what if build the pony.
Tell
For
Sam,
April
you're not
Fool's.
sending me away, pal.
I see Bill the pony just like lounging on a big mountain of oats. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's how. Like, I think that happened, and I don't remember. I was like, all right, April Fools, build a pony One Ring. Let's go.
Build the pony. I love
this where is it coming up here? Yes, where he turns to the side and then Legolas turns to the side.
Yeah.
That's that awkward
Wait,
moment
can
when
they
you're
see each other?
driving down the street and you turn and the other driver
And there's an
turns
Uruk-hai with a white hand on his head, you know.
You're like, I wasn't looking at you.
When I was able to interview Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan, they were talking about how the set for Sarn Geber was just like washed down the night before. It was washed down the river right before they were able to film it. So sad. We would have gotten a 5-minute scene here of them fighting orcs further up the river.
And here we have the extended scene of Gollum.
Yeah.
Get another glimpse of Gollum.
The clever waterman.
Floating on a log.
Aragorn, like, he's been following us forever.
I love the line. He's too clever a waterman.
Yeah, that's one of those cool Tolkien words.
Yeah.
Don't pay the waterman until he gets you to the other side. Sorry.
If there was more of a rivalry between, Aragorn and Boromir right now, it'd be like, oh, did you just notice that? Yeah, he's been following us for a few days.
Yeah. I'm the expert tracker here.
Right.
I'm 40 years older than you, so
I totally knew he was there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as we're kind of in a transition point for the fellowship here, as they've made camp, we're going to bring in our next two guests joining us. We've got Zalin from Voice of the Rings, who is my go-to guy for everything Lord of the Rings online. He's the expert, as well as Caitlin from Tea with Tolkien.
Oh, right on. It's unfortunate that I have to go at this point.
Welcome.
How are y'all doing?
Nice to
Great.
We're doing well, but I have to go. So I told my family I'd be out a few minutes ago.
Very well. Yeah.
Well,
Last
nice to
Sunday
meet
night
you very
before
quickly.
Christmas and all.
Nice to see you.
I've got a few more minutes, Alan. I'll be behind you in a bit, but have a good night.
Thank
Alan,
you all
good
for letting
talking
us
to
be a part of this. It was a real pleasure. I can't wait to do the Two Towers with y'all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Have a good
Sounds
night,
great.
Alan.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Alan.
Matt, I realized that this is actually like the first time we've like known each other for almost a year as friends now talking. I realized it's the first time we've like actually talked live with our voices.
Oh, it is,
Not
isn't it? Yeah.
Matt,
because
I
we
think
do
you
a
Yoystan
Lotro.
too, actually, Yoystan.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've talked to you on Twitter and a couple YouTube things, so you
Yeah.
guys are awesome. I really like all your channels. So
Oh, thanks, man. You
Thanks.
too.
thanks for letting me be able to join. Super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt,
Oh,
I think you and I have only talked like twice. Like,
Yeah, I
talk,
think this is
but
the
we
second
talk all the
time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, we text all the time and stuff.
Yeah.
Now I have to say, this is so earlier we got the question, what is your favorite scene? And I know there's other scenes that, like we mentioned the prologue and everything that have a lot more going on, but the Argonath will always be very, very precious to me, I will say.
Yeah.
Because this was the moment where I knew I had fallen in love with this film and with the world, because I immediately was like just taken away with what is the story here? Like something that's this massive that would have taken forever to build, not to mention it's now in like a more decrepit state. I just had to know what the story was behind this. And so that's what kind of launched me into my eternal rabbit hole of the world of Tolkien.
It's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What I love about that scene is the music. Did you notice that as the camera goes over Isildur's foot, you actually get the ring theme?
The ring,
right?
yeah.
But it's like I'm not
it's a little more beautiful.
Yeah, like I don't know enough about music to know what they've done to it. It seems like it's a little bit like deeper. I don't know if it's like played in a a lower octave or what. I don't know. I clearly not a musician, but I don't know. It just feels more epic, right? Like it's coming from the deeps of time, and I think that's really well done.
Yeah, the music in this, Howard Shore's music is amazing. I have a music major, 2 degrees. And so I heard you guys talk about choirs, Yoystan, and I was like, oh yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
I've been in orchestra since I was 12 years old, so it's like a long time. But
I do miss my time in choir, and I love the vocal music that comes from Howard Shore, and it's fantastic.
I wanted my choir to do Lord of the Rings. You're so lucky. You got to do so.
I mean, it was unfortunate. Like they never ended up singing that Elbreth song, but my fellow guys and I in our little a cappella group, we did sing Misty Mountains Cold for concert. So I at least got that. Yeah, that was fun.
That's cool.
So
Thank
fun.
you.
That's awesome.
So Caitlin, what's your favorite Fellowship scene?
Oh man, I would have to. I don't know, because at the beginning of the movie, it's setting the stage for everything to come. So I feel like Bilbo's birthday party has like such a big part of my heart.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I don't know if I could possibly choose, because every scene is so good in so many different ways.
So hard.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like such
a hard choice. Yeah.
It's like earlier when I said usually my answer to what my favorite movie is The Lord of the Rings, because it's all one. It's like, what's your favorite scene from the film? It's like all of them.
Right.
All of them.
Yeah. It's like saying, what's your favorite? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Here's a fun question. What's your favorite sword from Lord of the Rings?
Huh.
I mean, and the real for me. I'm an Aragorn fanboy, so that's just
It's definitely got the best story, right?
For sure.
I mean, Galadriel is cool too, right? Because it used to belong to the King of Gondolin. But I'd have to go with Anduril.
Yeah, I agree. I have a replica of his sword, so I feel like I'm partial to that one.
Oh
yeah. We always use it at our Hobbit parties every year to destroy the piñata at the end.
That's awesome.
It's great.
Oh, that's
I know. I got Glamdring and Andril right here, next to me.
Yeah.
So cool.
It would be really cool if the piñata is like Sauron's hand shaped, Caitlin. Just like
it's usually a dragon.
Yeah.
Nice. I will say I am a big fan of Haragrim, Theoden's sword. The way they did it with the horse heads.
Yes.
I've always thought, like, it doesn't look like the most efficient in battle. Like, I don't think it's going to protect your hands very well, but it looks really cool.
Yeah.
It does.
No, it's not a fan.
We've got a question
piñata.
about a fan or a piñata in the chat.
If only.
There it is, Matt.
Alan and I are famous for whacking
there
a
we
fan
go.
or piñata on our
Yes,
show.
I've heard of the legend of it. Yeah, that's a really cool sword.
And this is another, we talked about, how much character rehab gets done in especially the Two Towers Extended with Boromir. And it definitely, I think it enhances this moment of clarity that Boromir has as well.
Yeah.
Realize, what have I done moment.
Can we talk about his hair here too? Because I mean, and I mean this in all seriousness, like, you see his hair go, first of all, his hair is just completely wild. And now he's got leaves in it. Like, he really has gone completely feral for a moment here under the spell of the ring. And it's coming back from that moment. And I don't know, there's just a contrast between that moment of clarity you're talking about, Matt, and just this completely disheveled look that he's got.
Yeah.
Right. The leaves and the sticks in his hair is an incredible touch. Like, they really went the distance with that.
Yeah.
And he almost, like, the way he acts, his eyes almost like he like comes back to reality when he realizes he goes that feral. Like he's such a good actor. He's amazing.
Yeah.
I do have to run, guys, but I'm waiting for a good point because I'm strapped in right now.
Hard to find a good point to lead Lord of the Rings.
I know.
Nice to meet you.
Like that would.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you.
Yeah,
that would hurt so bad, right?
Yeah, this is a rough scene right here.
Yeah.
Like that's not a short fall, especially for someone who's only 3'6".
That's a great point.
You know, one thing in the 4K that you guys were talking about, the sweat, which was I was so like, oh my gosh, is the hair and the wrinkles on their skin. Like you can see it so clearly. I watched it on. We have a 4K TV, and I got the thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
The pores of their noses.
Oh my gosh, it's like almost too much information.
Yeah, sometimes.
Right. Like I was not meant to know all of this about.
I know. I'm like,
face.
I don't need to see
Exactly.
have a thing there on your face.
This is such a good moment too. Yoystan, you said this is one of your favorites, right? This is kind of what you picked when Aragorn.
This was him turning away from
the path
from
of
from Isildur.
Yeah.
This is what changed him from Isildur to someone better.
Ring of Bar here.
Yeah,
defeating that temptation too,
and that's cool because we don't see that temptation moment like we do in the books with the prancing pony, right? Like we've got the in the books he has a very vivid temptation moment where he rejects the temptation. We see it here in the movie.
And this is really good right after Boromir because they're both these men and they're the only men in the Fellowship and we have these totally opposite reactions.
Yeah.
And the two protagonists, that would be the last time that they would see each other until
after the swervy walk right here.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that scene with him like walking up to all of the Uruk-hai. Jeez.
I guess the terminology would be the badass walk, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Words that maybe not appropriate.
It is super cool though.
We got a question from Josiah Zabel. Says, have you seen the Man-at-Arms video where they made Narsil, broke it, and remade it as Anduril? That is awesome.
I love that video. Somebody comes in dressed as Sauron with his mace and just
they
shatters
break it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm totally gonna watch that now. Far and a half, right? Oh, I love
that's
that.
Pretty cool.
Him yelling Elendil.
Yes. That's the stuff like there's no like you would catch it with subtitles and something that I didn't discover till much later. I love the 2-for-1 shot.
The stab with the arrow and then the shot.
Yeah. Well, and the arrow before that, how it went through two of them. Like,
oh yeah.
I'd be curious to find out how realistic that is too, with stabbing someone with an arrow and then shooting right after with it, the same arrow. Like from a professional archer, if that could be
I guess if you got him through the eye, right?
Yeah, if you didn't break the arrow, it has nothing on it, right?
Yeah.
We need like a Lord of the Rings Mythbusters.
We'll make a group, all of us.
There you go.
It's a great idea.
I think Sean's staying with us till the end of the film.
I
think
I'm debating right now. Like
you're so close at this.
I am so close.
Run.
It's a great idea, though, Nerd of the Rings, to do a watch party. Appreciate you having us on.
Oh, totally. Yeah, this is great. Thank you.
Yeah,
this is super fun.
It's a good thing I wasn't here for Moria because I'm such a dwarf, his whole Iron Shield, that I would have been like, oh, that part in the music. Oh! So it's really good I wasn't here. I mean, I was in the chat, obviously, but just like, shut up, Zolan.
It's nice to see Legolas do a little hand-to-hand, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's funny. Some of these, especially when we get to like Two Towers and stuff, I notice the certain choreography moments because then they would transition into the video game when I would play the Two Towers or Return of the King video games, and they would show certain moves, and like in the middle of the move, it like transitions to the video game character, and then I'm like getting ready to play the level.
And I love how like realistic a lot of the fighting is in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of fighting is in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of made up stuff because they had real choreography.
And no shaky. It's not really like the shaky cam, like
Oh,
erratic.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like everything is the shaky cam stuff now.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
feel bad for
that.
Aragorn during that scene. It's like Legolas is just taking him down, no problem.
Yeah.
Good thing that one didn't go through 2 people.
Yeah.
He must have known the right strength of the
He's
pull
like-
back.
Maybe he has a Hawkeye quiver and he can like select which arrows. This is the double casualty arrow.
He's just that good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that part where Boromir saves
This
the
shot's
Hobbit
pretty awesome too.
Oh,
Yeah.
The
That's
aerial shot
why
through
I'm still here, because it's like I can't leave now,
I
right?
know.
Right.
This
Yeah.
sounds so intense. Like I'm gonna start crying.
Oh yeah, of Gondor points out that's camera on a zip line because they didn't have drones back then.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's
Oh,
true.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, it makes us feel even older, all of us.
Right?
Drones.
It's like now you pick up a drone for like $100 or something.
Yeah.
Right.
With like a
Crazy.
4K camera.
Right.
Yeah. You can film better than they did in Hollywood 60 years ago.
Yeah.
I love getting to see Merry and Pippin like
Chucking
trying
rocks.
to fight right now. It's
Yeah.
so cute.
Yeah.
They got some sword action in there too.
They're
though.
doing great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like, it's so great. Like it's one of those moments where you see the main villain coming up. He's got a quiver. Like, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, and you
But-
hate him so much in this moment too.
but it
'cause you're
plays-
like, you know exactly what's gonna happen.
Like, even though you know what's coming, like it doesn't diminish from the power of the moment at all.
Yeah. This is rough. Oh, that
Oh.
statue right behind Boromir is really neat.
On the edge of his homeland.
I love
Yeah.
that they had that moment of Mary about to throw a rock and he stops. It just kind of like
Oof.
further emphasizes the like, you know, heart-stopping moment.
Mm.
Like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
The shock of it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To jump forward too, remember when Pippin says to Theoden, sorry, not Theoden, Denethor, he
Mhm.
says to him, you know, one man can get killed by one arrow, but Boromir was
Boromir.
pierced by many. That's so
Yeah.
emotional because after watching this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they're
yet he
just
kept
devastated.
Yeah.
There's that look of I'm sorry on Boromir's face
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Not just I'm sorry that I can't save you, but I'm sorry for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's so
Sean
fun.
Bean is
Like,
just so great.
yeah.
He is.
He should get killed in movies more often.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He never. I think this was the only one, right?
He never
I think
gets
so,
killed.
yeah.
Salt-
Yeah.
he's so salty about that too, in a funny way. In all of his interviews, people
He's so good at dying. So.
He is.
And this one's his favorite because he fought back.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, good point.
Man, I love it. So I mentioned earlier in my Discord chat, I've got people sharing 4K stills, and someone just sent a close up of Lurtz as he's firing that arrow, and there's so much detail in that shot. It's crazy.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, you can even see like the stuff coming out of his mouth. It's kind of gross. I see it.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
just
this
am-
is so
I'm-
sad.
It's so
Yeah.
it's so intense.
I just imagine the cheering though when Aragorn
Yeah.
gets there. That happened
Yeah.
in the theaters, you know?
Yeah. I didn't actually see this in theaters.
Oh, okay.
mean,
So I
really?
said at the beginning of the stream, I've never seen this movie in theaters. It's the one Middle Earth film I haven't seen.
Yeah, I
wow.
was like 9 when it came out.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a similar
and my
problem to yours.
parents-
Oh, you
Yeah,
kids.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
right.
I was too.
I was like 6 or 7, I think.
Oh, stop.
Jeez.
Stop. I'm not gonna say how bad it
Sean.
was.
Sean and I are sitting here, the old men, thinking like, isn't it past
Seriously.
these kids' bedtime?
I know, man.
It's kinda late for
I
you
saw
guys,
this
isn't it?
movie on midnight at midnight on opening night.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah.
My family is a Star Wars family, and so my parents
Mm.
had no interest in taking me to see this. I actually never saw it until someone gave it to my dad as a present, and my dad
Oh,
was like,
wow.
"I don't want this,"
Oh.
and I took it. So that's how I first got introduced to Lord of the Rings.
My mom got me into this. She's like, "You got to watch," and I was like, I was like, "No, it's too scary," right? Or when I was like 6 years
Right.
old, Mom's like, "No, you got to watch this," and I watched it and I loved it. It was
That's
over.
awesome.
It was over.
my kids know how much I love Lord of the Rings, and so they're like, we don't like the Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
we don't
they're trying to be cool. Right?
Yeah,
wow.
We only like Narnia. We don't like Tolkien. Yeah, so that's.
I showed it to my kids for the first time last year when they were 6 and 7. Oh gosh, I can't remember. 6 and 7, 5 and 7, I think. But yeah, they finally have seen the movies, and I'm trying to get them to read The Hobbit. But
nice,
good man.
They're not having it yet.
Caitlin, you could always explain to them what a will is, and that you could write them out.
Right? Yeah.
If they really want to continue down this road.
Maybe when they're a couple years older.
You could also tell them if it wasn't for Tolkien, you wouldn't have C.S. Lewis's Narnia.
That is, I did tell them that. I'm like, oh, you like Narnia? Okay, well, let's keep going here.
Let's talk about C.S. Lewis's favorite book.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is one of the most powerful moments of the whole film here.
Everything with the music and just all of it together is just incredible.
I love the unspoken understanding that Boromir needs to be holding his sword when he dies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The honor.
Yeah.
Warrior.
And then obviously he was kind of antagonistic toward the idea of Aragorn being king. The whole Gondor has no king.
Gondor needs no
Gondor
king.
needs no king. And then he calls Aragorn his king.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes. Oh.
I still can't completely watch right now, or I'll tear up. So we're good.
Right?
I mean, it's always
this is a perfectly reasonable time for everybody to just turn off their cameras.
I know.
See, I could be crying back here. You guys wouldn't know.
Yeah, right. Man of the Woods is smart to keep that.
Yeah.
I love this how they had him kissing his brow because that's straight from the books, isn't it?
Yeah. Something that I love what Tolkien does as well is kind of how he writes brother characters. Right, I'm very close with my brother, so Isildur, Anarion, Elros, Elrond, and in many ways Aragorn and Boromir.
Yeah.
True. And with brother and sister too. He's really good with family things, like Eowyn and
Yeah.
Right.
Because as my younger sister, I only have one sister. It's that part gets me when he finds out on the battlefield in the third one. That gets me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
So here's a question from the chat. Were you all introduced to The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings first? And how old were you? Any strong memories associated with that experience? I was 7 when my dad read it to me, says our chat nightly.
I read The Hobbit first. I read it. I went out and bought a box set of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, fully expecting to read the whole series. So it wasn't like I read The Hobbit first and then what comes next, and then I knew what came next. But yeah, so it was The Hobbit first for me.
Look at those eyes! Wow, in 4K, that's crazy.
I think it was Lord of the Rings for me, but I was so young. I was introduced to the games and the movies around the same point in time. But it was my dad, and I do have one memory of Frodo's bloodied hand in Mount Doom. My dad watching the film, and I was 5, and I'm like, "Whoa, what's happening?"
Yeah, I walked in one time when they threw the heads over the wall. Yeah. No, the worst part in the whole series, right? Gore.
Oh no.
My big bonded my family together for sure.
Yeah, my big one was we were on vacation in the Redwoods, Northern California, and we read The Hobbit, and then we read and The Ring. My sister actually found a gold ring in a tide pool, which was super cool when we were reading that part the next day. So that was crazy. And then at the same time, we had just watched the movies just recently that year with Treebeard. So all the redwoods around, that made it really
fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, finding a gold ring in a body of water doesn't always go that well, but obviously you guys were okay.
It was huge too.
I'm glad they didn't murder you.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
did it happen to be anybody's birthday or?
They ended up, I think, when she got married, she actually they melted it down and made it into both rings.
That's
cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow.
I think she'd be okay if I said that story. So emotional.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And I don't know if this is a commonly noticed thing, but the way that Frodo grabs his hand here is similar to how Sam grabs his hand in Mount Doom.
Oh yeah,
I love
Oh,
that.
yes.
I love that.
Without a finger.
parallel.
Yeah. I think I've seen on Twitter someone did a photo or a picture of like them both right next to each other.
Side by side, yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. I hadn't noticed it before that.
I didn't put two and two together because they're pretty far apart in terms of runtime, you know.
Right.
yeah.
I feel like that scene is so funny because it looks like Sam is falling so far. He's like going down, and then Frodo's hand just like pops right in.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's interesting. Is that Sam's perspective? Because Sam is terrified of water. Probably feels really deep to him.
Because he was just waiting in it. So the idea that it is like so deep all of the sudden, that must have kind of been meant to be how he's feeling.
And I guess the parallel of water and lava, right? It furthers that. One of Frodo's biggest fears must have been getting to Mount Doom, and Sam's biggest fear is water.
Right.
Waters,
Right.
So
Yeah.
It's quite amazing.
That's cool.
True.
I love this scene of them all getting kind of ready to go after this.
Yeah.
Let's hunt some orc.
Yeah.
And Gimli. My favorite.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Matt. You're stuck with me to the end here. So.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
We're almost done.
Yeah, that's been my word of this live stream is amazing. I'm still blown away every time I watch it.
Yeah, I think it's been a while since I've been able to watch the movie all the way through. Normally I'll watch it like if I'm working, so I'll have it on the background.
Yeah.
But to actually see the whole thing, it's been a while.
Leave it on because we all love it so much. Our family does it too. Just turns it on just to have it on while we're doing other things.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, usually if I'm like working on stuff, I just have it in the background.
Actually, it's a good one for just like wrapping presents this time of year.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's often on TV this time of year.
It's funny because I do associate these movies with Christmas time because of when they came out. you know?
Sure.
True. True.
Another
always do in
reason why it's a
December.
Christmas movie.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anything could be a Christmas movie nowadays. So
There's elves.
Well,
They
and then
leave
there's-
the Rivendell on the 25th.
That's
of
right. I was
December.
going to say, yep. That's it. Yep.
It's 100% Christmas movie.
Yep.
This canonically is happening in January, right? Parth Gallon looks amazing for January.
For January?
Yeah. Never thought
well,
about that before.
they are quite a bit more south though.
Right.
Too.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, they're
Because
actually
Ithilien is basically like the Eastern Mediterranean in terms of the flora that are there. We recently got into that.
So they're on the same latitude right there as like Rohan, right? Across the middle. Yeah, I think so. Where they
Something
were
like
with
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just north of the Ithilien.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, it's February. My bad. February.
Mm-hmm.
Sam with the hope.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So sweet.
And this was the moment where I turned to my friend who first showed me these movies, and I'm like, "Wait, this is how it ends? What? Like, what? I'm like, how? They're not there yet."
The second time I saw this in the theater, I remember the lights going up, and there was a woman like 2 rows in front of me who literally just
Lost
did this.
Her mind. Yeah.
Oh man, that's great.
But this isn't the end of the book for you guys? I thought this was the end of the book too. It was just
Yeah.
walking into Emmenwheel.
Yeah. So
and then,
good.
Of course,
Yeah.
Enya,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you again
It's
so
fantastic.
much,
Fun.
Matt.
Yeah,
Thank you, Matt.
absolutely.
This was great.
Guys, this was so much fun.
It was so fun. You gotta do
I
this
hope
for the next one.
we had like anywhere from 500 to almost 1,000 people here joining us for this. So yeah, this was a ton of fun. We'll definitely be doing this again. Yeah, I think maybe we'll just make this an annual thing and do a while, unless people just like demand that we do it sooner. But I like the idea of doing Two Towers maybe next December and
Be fun.
get another big group together. And
I think that's a great idea. I think it makes it more special to do it on the 20th.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really fun
it's
for us creators to be able to meet too. You guys are all
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too.
Nice to meet you
Fun.
guys.
It's a
Yeah,
great
you
community.
too.
Well,
Yeah.
I gave Cliff an outro earlier, told people to find him on theonering.net. So why don't we go around, just let everybody know real quick where they can find your work, and give a little plug.
All right, who's
so
first?
We'll start with Yoystan. Here,
you can find me on YouTube at Men of the West, Twitter at Yoystan. I love this community. Love all of you. Matt, thank you again so much. I appreciate it. Love talking Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth lore with everybody. It's really such an honor, the honor of a lifetime.
All right, Sean.
All right. You can find me and Alan at the Prancing Pony Podcast. That's theprancingponypodcast.com. We're on Facebook, the Prancing Pony Podcast, Twitter at Prancing Pony Pod, Instagram at Prancing Pony Pod, and everywhere you find your podcasts. We're doing a weekly show where we talk through a few pages of Tolkien's works at a time. We're about halfway through Two Towers now. So, Matt, thanks so much for this. This has been fantastic, and looking forward to next year.
Absolutely. Caitlin.
So I'm Caitlin. You can find me at Tea with Tolkien on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. We've got a book club and stuff like that going on at our website, teawithtolkien.com. That's pretty much where you can find everything we're up to.
Fantastic. And Zalin.
Yes. Well, you can find me on YouTube, Voice of the Rings. I do a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff. I usually do voiceovers in the Lord of the Rings Online, which I know a lot of you like Lord of the Rings Online, the MMO. Mm-hmm. And also I have a Twitch and Twitter too you can check out. So, but thank you for having me on, Matt. This was super fun.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone in the chat who joined us tonight. This was a ton of fun. I really love doing this. Thank you to all my wonderful guests. These are all friends that I've made over the course of the last 2 years since I started this channel, which seems like not very long ago at all, but also quite a while ago, I guess 2 years. So I'm super appreciative to all my huge Tolkien friends that I've made, viewers and fellow content creators. And we will definitely be doing this again next year. I love the idea of an annual watch party. So that's it. That's it for tonight, guys. So we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings. I've got a video on Rivendell coming up for Christmas Day. I thought that was appropriate since the Fellowship does leave on Christmas Day. And I've done a lot of dark topics, did like Watcher in the Water and stuff like that recently. So we need to flip it around, get some good vibes for Christmas. So I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. And thanks so much for joining. And we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.
Bye.